One by one, the major unbeatens went down until there was only one who could be called King of the Mountain. With a ferocious defense and high-octane offense led by Jason White, Oklahoma's aiming at another title. Last year, Texas A&M upset the top-ranked Sooners. Now everybody's chasing Oklahoma. I will follow you. I will follow you. A&M will try to do it again as the Sooners aim to stay unbeaten. And it's coming up next on ABC. Today we're in the heartland, following the leader in Norman, Oklahoma, where they love their football. More than 81,000 expected for this Big 12 South matchup between the Texas A&M Aggies and the Sooners of Oklahoma. And hi, everybody. I'm Tim Brand along with Ed Cunningham. Glad to have you along. Number 1 ranked Oklahoma, heavily favored in this game, averaging 46 points a game with a dominant defense. And they're very well aware of the fact that it was the same situation last year when McNeil and the A&M Aggies came in and upset them. And so can they do it again?
Well, they're going to need McNeil to really step up. Last year as a true freshman, he was an unknown quantity. He came into the game in the second quarter. The Aggies already down by 10 points. He threw for 4 touchdowns, ran for 89 yards, and Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator, said, we had no idea who this young man was. Now they know. Last week against Kansas, Reggie threw for 259 yards, a career high. But, Reggie, you're no longer in Kansas. Now you're looking at one of the best defenses in the country. And, of course, Jason White, the Heisman candidate at quarterback. But it all begins and ends on defense for Bob Stoops, Oklahoma Sooners. Last week, Dan Cody against Oklahoma State. 4 tackles, all of them behind the line of scrimmage. 3 for sacks. He is one of 3 starters on this defensive line that all run under a 4.7 40. This team is extremely fast on defense.
Well, Oklahoma's in the middle of a 3-game homestand and trying to win its first 10 games for the second time under head coach Bob Stoops. When we come back, we'll kick it off. But first this, and then John, Terry, and Craig will meet you on the other side.
And welcome to our New York studios. John Saunders, Terry Bowden, and Craig James. If you didn't believe Oklahoma was number 1 last week, it certainly was proven against Oklahoma State. There's not a flaw in this team.
No, there's a reason they're number 1. They have the best total defense in the country, best scoring offense in the country. They got a quarterback, Jason White, who puts up Heisman-like numbers. Nobody, not even Texas A&M or anybody, really is going to beat them unless they beat themselves.
Yeah, of course, you start talking about the best this, best that, and Texas A&M's got the best this and best that at the other end of the spectrum, and that's the problem with them. But they do have a guy in Courtney Lewis who can run the football. Courtney Lewis is a freshman guy that is a sensation when he gets the ball in his hands. He can make plays. Reggie McNeil can make plays at quarterback. Not enough. They turn the ball over too many times, and they give up too many points. A&M has some problems.
All right, we'll get you out to that game in a moment.
All right, John, thank you. Memorial Stadium, Owen Field, the Aggies and the Sooners. Samantha Ryan with head coach Bob Stoops.
All right, thanks a lot, Timmy. Coach, last week your team dominated Oklahoma State. Today you have another team which surprised you guys last year. What did you tell your team this week?
Well, just that they're very aware of that. I really didn't need to tell them. We were 8-0 and undefeated and number 1 in the country a year ago when a lot of these same players beat us. So we're fully aware of that. We need to play as well as we can play to have a chance again today.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bob.
All right, thanks.
All right, Sam, really cold here. I mean, at practice Thursday, all the Oklahoma players were wearing cold weather gear. The coaches had on gloves, ski caps, and they were all bundled up. And it continues here, although it's a little bit warmer today, 48 degrees, and a light mist is falling. Dennis Franchione, first season at Texas A&M, he was quoted as saying he didn't ride in to A&M on a white horse with a magical wand. They're rebuilding. It's a young team, and they're making a lot of strides, getting better and better with each game. That's a good thing. Oklahoma won the toss, deferred. Texas A&M will receive the opening kickoff. Trey DiCarlo will kick off for Oklahoma, and deep for the Aggies. Terrence Murphy and Terrence Thomas, and the ball is off the tee, so they'll reload.
Lucy came out, knocked it off, so Charlie Brown couldn't kick off to get this thing started.
12th man today for the Aggies is John Ray, redshirt freshman. We're underway in Norman, from in Oklahoma. And like he's done all year, he kicks this one out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. So they'll bring it out to the 20. So A&M will have it first offensively, and we get our first look at the fastest Aggie, or one of the fastest Aggies on the field.
So I'm Reggie McNeil from Lufkin, Texas. I went to Lufkin High School, and I passed for a career high 259 yards last week.
As Ed said, Reggie replaced Dustin Long in this game last year, became a nightmare for the highly ranked Sooners in what was a major upset nationally. First down for A&M. A little bit of movement, the snap, we're off and underway. McNeil looks deep, and he's got a man. Look out, just overthrown. Terrence Murphy, another speedster, was open on the right sideline. Well, the principal financial group starting lineups, A&M's backs and receivers. Tim Van Zandt is the only senior in this group. Terrence Murphy, who just was the receiver there, is your all-purpose guy, averaging almost 21 yards per touch. But Keith Joseph, who's built like a statue, the most versatile out of the backfield, 6'2", 256. The offensive line, well, it has its hands full today. Kirk and Ruber are the only seniors up front. Hutzer, the only one under 300 pounds, but he's a puppy, just a redshirt freshman. Second down and 10 out of the gun. McNeil will run. It'll bring up third down and long. Defensively for Oklahoma, and you will love watching how aggressively these guys play. Here are your starters across the front. The defensive line has 29 sacks among them, led by Dan Cody with 8. The linebackers are really good with bad intentions. Teddy Lehman is the leading tackler and quicker than Gossip. And in the secondary, they're all talented, but four-year starter Derek Strait is the glue to the defense. And folks, right there on the right side, Derek Strait is really special.
And the one thing that Oklahoma does not have to do is bring a lot of pressure because of that front four. And in a third and medium situation, they can just rush forward and get the pressure with those guys.
Third down and 7. Cody jumps off that side, and the ball is thrown out of bounds. Boy, he got a great jump on the right side, and he was coming hard.
You've got to think that Dan Cody, you teach your defensive linemen, listen, learn, get everything you want to know. And that time, Cody, who's a 4'6", 8 guy, he's extremely quick off the corner. I bet he knew the snap count, Timmy. I bet he was listening in and heard McNeil say it was on 1 and jumped on that count.
Well, bring on Texas A&M's punter, junior walk-on Jacob Young, averaging 40 yards a punt. Only 2 touchbacks this year, 9 inside the 20, but he just wants to get this one away. He's punting to Antonio Perkins, who's returned 4 punts for touchdowns in his career, 3 against UCLA this year. Good snap. Not a particularly long kick. Perkins will have a return on this. Tries to give ground, and good coverage by the Aggies. Blake Kendrick will get credit for the tackle. He stuck with it after a 33-yard punt. They lose 2 on the return, but it'll be great field position for Oklahoma as they go on offense. And we get our first look today at a 6'3" senior, a guy who was a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Jason White, Tuttle High School, Tuttle, Oklahoma. I missed most of the last 2 seasons due to knee injuries, but I'm making the most of my senior year.
No question about that. Jason is certainly a great story in perseverance. One of the best in the nation in pass efficiency. Finished only 3 games this year because of big leads. Throws here out into the flats. He's got Runnels, and Runnels is close to a first down. Be a yard short. J.D. Runnels, a sophomore, 6'1", 246-pounder. Principal financial group starting lineups, backs and receivers. Ronaldo Works is out with a bruised back, so Kewan Jones starts there. Mark Clayton is the Sooners' leading receiver, but a lot of guys make catches, especially Jones and Rankins, and we'll see 8 or 9 guys there. They spread wide and score a lot. Offensive line is huge. They're all over 300 pounds except Carter. He's 290. Jamal Brown, one of the best tackles in college football. He's 313. Left side, and a good defensive play. Lost yardage this time for Oklahoma. It was Jones who loses the yardage. Defensively for A&M, the Aggies really have to kick it up a notch. Ranked 96th in the nation in scoring defense. Across that front, it's Ross, Jolly, Jasmine, and Smith. The linebackers have moved around, and they are young. Manning starts along with Tay Thompson, the true freshman, and true freshman Justin Warren. They were playing high school ball this time last year. In the secondary, watch number 19, Jackson Appel. He's intense, he's talented, he's got a Warriors mentality. Had a great talk with him last night. 3rd down and 5, Oklahoma. They lost 4. Throw to the flats, first down Sooners. They move the chains. Jawan Rankins with the catch, his 26th catch of the year.
Take a look at these 2 teams numerically. Oklahoma on defense. #1 in the nation, averaging 45.1 points per game. And you mentioned A&M defensively, 96th in the country, giving up 33. They're trying to find Carl Torbush, the defensive coordinator, said we're just trying to find productive speed to put on the field. And those 2 true freshmen are in there because they just had to do something. Losing Jared Moss, their middle linebacker, was a big deal a few weeks ago.
Look there at Carl, who was the head coach at North Carolina, and here's Jones, and Jones spins his way out to about the 46-yard line as they move deeper into A&M territory. Tackle made by Ray Jones, number 23.
And the one thing that Carl Torbush says about this offensive line for Oklahoma, this is the most athletic group. And when you look at them on film, they're so relentless with their feet. Kevin Wilson, former Northwestern offensive line coach and coordinator, came in, and he's really got this group playing well. And Torbush said this is the best group we've seen all year by far.
Oklahoma needs 4 on second down out of the gun. He looks left, throws over the middle. He's got it caught, and look out. Here we go, folks. It's Clayton. He's off to the races, and touchdown, Oklahoma. Mark Clayton, the 5'11", 187-pound junior, semifinalist for the Biletnikoff Award, one of the best receivers in college football with a 40-yard touchdown reception.
This is what Torbush was so worried about. He knows all about Mark Clayton. Remember, this staff at A&M was at Alabama last year, and Clayton absolutely tore them up. He had 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 129 yards last year, a missed tackle in the secondary. And against a guy like Clayton, one guy misses deep, he's going to finish it.
Trey DiCarlo comes on for the extra point attempt. Good snap, good hold. And the Sooners tack on another point. So, folks, they are explosive. And just like that, with 11:40 remaining in the first period, it's White to Clayton. 7-0, top-ranked Sooners. Folks, it didn't take long. The average 46 points a game. They're on the board with 11:40 to play in the first period. 5 plays, 59 yards. It took 2:19. They're a quick strike offense. Clayton with a 40-yard touchdown reception. Last week, they did pretty much the same thing. They got out of the blocks quickly, and it's almost every week. Trey DiCarlo kicks long, and this one will not be returned as Terrence Murphy watches it go out of the back of the end zone.
Well, we talked about how young this defense is, and Ray Jones, just a sophomore, coming over, trying to give over-the-top help. You'll see from the left side of your screen, watch him come over. He gets over the top late, and so he's out of position. He never gets his feet underneath of him and gathered to take a better angle at Clayton. He actually takes Appel out, who was giving underneath support on Clayton, and this guy, he's just so explosive with the ball in his hands that you cannot miss tackles in the secondary against a guy like Clayton.
Well, it's a quick strike offense under Bob Stoops. OU has had 165 scoring drives of 2 minutes or less. They do not waste time. First down for the Aggies. Texas A&M, right side. Lewis stumbles up to the line of scrimmage.
Well, we'll take a look at the Aggies on offense against the #1 defense, at least in total defense in the country, the Oklahoma Sooners. One of 8 teams in the country, the Aggies are, that average over 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing. A lot of that has to do not only with Courtney Lewis and Derek Farmer in the backfield, but Reggie McNeil. You mentioned he's one of the fastest guys on the team, and Francione and his staff love him in the quarterback draws.
Well, Francione wants him to have a big game here, I can guarantee you. Here he throws the out pattern, and he's got it complete. And there is Tim Van Zandt. Van Zandt, just a senior out of Victoria, Texas. Great story, walk-on. Played on the B team in high school. He continues to exceed expectations. Became a starter this year, picks up 14.
Van Zandt, he got that scholarship right before Virginia Tech. Nice job pushing off, and you saw him use his eyes there against Antonio Perkins. Perkins thinking that Van Zandt's going to run right by him. A good job using his eyes and showing the cornerback one thing and then breaking it off late as Perkins turns to run with him.
So a little bit of success for Texas A&M as they pick up the first. Reggie McNeil with a long count, 3-step drop, throws the out pattern and has another completion. So they move the ball across the 40. Irvin Taylor with his first catch. He's a 6'3", 217-pound true freshman, and you'll see a lot of true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores in the lineup for Texas A&M.
And Irvin Taylor's older brother, Jamar, was injured earlier in the season, and they really miss him. One of the top receivers all time at A&M. Soft coverage there and good read by McNeil. You know, that was the one thing Franchione said. He's not a thrower. He's a passer. He has a very good feel of where to fit the ball.
You talk about that loss of Taylor. I mean, it's tragic.
Yeah, it's huge. Such a shame for a senior.
Fifth-year senior, one of the best receivers in the conference, assaulting the Aggie record book, comes up 35 yards short. Second down, McNeil goes down. Convergence at the quarterback. Boy, they do put on some pressure.
We were just talking about Jamar Taylor and how close he was to moving up. He would have, if he would have been able to finish out the season, he'd have been #1 all-time in receptions and receiving yards. Blew out his ACL, and they really miss him. They've got guys like Terrence Murphy, but when you have a guy like Jamar Taylor who can fit in there, you really miss him.
Well, it looked like McNeil just tripped coming back, tripped over Kirk, loses 4, so it'll bring up 3rd down and a long 8. Backside pressure. He's got some mobility, but he doesn't have enough to get by Oklahoma. Picks up a yard. Pressure came from Corey Klein. He's had 35 starts here at OU, so he's a solid veteran, and he chased him out, made the play.
But you know that the defensive staff, Mike Stoops and Brent Venables, co-defensive coordinator, spent a lot of time working on balance. You saw everybody breaking down and getting on their feet. You do not want to lunge at Reggie McNeil because he will make you look silly.
Jacob Young back at the 25-yard line. That's where he'll punt, and he's going to Antonio Perkins. Last time they had good coverage on Perkins. Let's see what happens this time. It's a better punt, a high punt. And Perkins will not fair catch it. And they'll throw a flag on A&M for encroachment. A 42-yard punt.
Well, Byron Jones, there's no longer the halo rule that says the receiver gets 2 yards, but Byron Jones might as well have been in the arms of Perkins.
I don't know. I think with the rule gone now, he kind of slid by him. I'd like to see it again. There's Randy Crystal will make the call and tell us.
Kick catch interference on the kicking team. It'll be a 15-yard penalty. First down.
Problem is he might have touched him as he went by.
I think he did, yeah.
Kind of bumped him. Let's see.
He gets awfully close. He can smell what he had for breakfast. I mean, he's on his arm. I
don't know.
Perkins made a great play on the ball just to make the catch.
See, I agree with Coach Franchione there. I'm not sure I'd throw a flag. No contact was made, and there's no rule. Gorgeous campus in Norman, Oklahoma, of Oklahoma University. Well, the Sooners pick up 15 there on the penalty, and I'm not sure I agree with it. We'll take another look here shortly. But it's first down, Oklahoma. Jason White throws. This is Clayton. He's got a blocker in front of him, moves to the outside, and Clayton's out to the 43-yard line. Byron Jones runs him out.
Take a look at that interference. Remember, there is no more halo rule. And we watched this 3 or 4 times during the break. And I agree because Jones moves to the back.
No contact is made.
And he didn't move. If you're going to call it, though, how in the world can that be a 15-yard penalty? There's got to be, they took away, there used to be a 5 or a 15. If anything, this just might be a 5-yard. I don't know how you give the...
He's drifting to the left. There's no contact made. He moves to the left to his side.
I agree with you. And even if you call it, it just seems awful stiff to have 15 yards.
I'd like to have an official here, hear what he says about it. Around the right side they go. Juwan Jones, stopped by Johnny Jolly out of Houston, Texas. Let's go downstairs. Here's Sam.
Well, Tim, when Mark Clayton first got to OU, he was considered weak, weighed a mere 150 pounds. He said he never lifted weights in high school. He didn't have to. He played basketball. His first day here in 2000, headed right to the weight room, tried to lift 135, tore his pectoral muscle. So that was that for him that season. Right now he's up to 137. Doesn't look weak anymore, guys.
You know, I think the best Mark Clayton story I've heard is when he and Magruder pulled that victim from that accident last summer on I-35. Very, very heroic guys. That'll tell you a lot about his characters. Rankings gets a pickup here for the Sooners and a first down.
Talking to Bob Stoops this week about his recruiting, it's obvious that they are getting to a position where they can have a shot at any player in the country. They can recruit on a national basis. And you were talking about the guys from Oklahoma pulled those people from the RAC. He said, you know, the number one thing we look at after their trip, we asked the guy who was their host, do they fit into our family? Can they be a part of this team? Will they fit in with our egos and everything else? And if they don't, they'll take a pass on them.
Here's a quick swing to Jones. Jones gets a block, cuts inside. He's down close to another first down. Kewan Jones. Oh, is he quick? 5'9", 187-pound sophomore. Looked like a chicken on a June bug.
And Jackson Appel just took a tackle of air. I've got him. I've got him.
You know what a chicken on a June bug is?
I have no idea what that is. I just let that go.
They know out in this part of the woods.
Jones, a guy who, you know, they had to send a little message to him. He got benched against Missouri for lack of focus and running hard. They know he was such a good runner for them last year down inside the goal line.
Just that short of the first.
But Jones at 5'9", 187, he plays so much bigger than that. When you watch him, you think he's I mean, you know he's shorter than 6 feet, but he looks like he's about 215, 220 with the way he runs. He's very thick in his lower body.
See his numbers, 545 yards now.
And last year he was so good with Quentin Griffin getting them inside the 5. He was the guy who would finish. He had freshman record, OU freshman record, 14 rushing touchdowns in 2002.
Second down and short. Go around the right side. Jones has the first. He breaks into the secondary, flag down. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Now we'll see what the flag is all about. And it might be holding. A 33-yard touchdown burst by Kewan Jones.
A&M did a really nice job of getting a bunch of white shirts to stretch this thing out. And then the cut by Jones makes you think that there had to be holding somewhere in there.
Holding. Offense. It'll be a 10-yard penalty. Replay second down.
Told you that this is a quick strike offense. Folks, Oklahoma won its 2 rivalry games by a combined 85 points. 65-13 over Texas in the Red River Shootout. 52-9 over Oklahoma State. Now A&M comes in here, and they remember what happened last year when A&M upset them. They aren't messing around.
And all the players and coaches, they kind of use that company line that, you know, this is not about revenge. It's about us staying focused. I don't buy that. That hurt them last year. 8-0, number 1 in the country. To lose to a true freshman quarterback, that sticks in your craw.
Little swing move by Jones. Got the handoff. It looked like it was going to be a flea flicker, and he made a little spin move, pirouette, and then ran into Archie McDaniel.
Ronaldo Works, the big back, is out with a bruised back that he suffered last week against Oklahoma State. And so Jones, looking at this, is a little bit of an audition to be the man next year. Just a sophomore.
And Works will be back next week against Baylor. And Jones knows that, so he's trying to show what he can do.
Oh, absolutely.
And that'll make Works healthier quicker. So it all works for Bob Stoops.
More trips to the training room for Ronaldo.
Third down and short, big burst by Jones, and it's another first down for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, it's amazing when you have competition at every position like Bob Stoops has developed here at Oklahoma, how quickly guys get healthy when they have little bumps and bruises. And this offensive line, you can't say enough about how athletic they are. Vince Carter, the center, he is so quick when he's doing any kind of reach blocking or anything like that, and they're relentless finishing. And that comes from who they have to block all day in defense, in practice. And they come in these games, this has got to be fun for them.
Oklahoma content on running the ball. The Sooners scored on their opening possession in every game except last week. Came out here, guns blazing, hit the touchdown pass to Mark Clayton, and they've got a very methodical, very dominant drive going here.
You know, it's funny when we were talking to Carl Torbush, you mentioned all that time he spent at North Carolina. He was the defensive coordinator under Mack Brown. Mack left to go to Texas. He took over as head coach. He said, we saw all those great FSU teams. They only ran if they had to. The difference, he says, between this Oklahoma team and those great Florida State teams is they love to line it up and play physical football, where the Seminoles, they'd only run it if you made them.
Well, you know what's interesting? You know, Stoops threw it all the time when he first got here to Oklahoma because he knew he could recruit a quarterback, could recruit some seniors, and he could get some receivers, and he thought that was the quickest way to win. Then they built this, a very balanced attack, and right now it's Jones, Jones, and more Jones.
And this offensive line, the scary part, not one senior. They have over 140 starts combined, and not one senior.
Bryce Reed jumped across the line of scrimmage, made contact, and the redshirt freshman will be penalized.
Offside defense. 5-yard penalty. The gain sufficient for a first down.
Or penalized.
I think you can say it's tomato, right? Either way.
Flag flies either way, and they move the football.
Well, and Carl Torbush, you know, they switched from a 3-4 to a 4-3 when R.C. Slocum stepped down. He said that's not been the biggest transition. It's just trying to find functional speed to get on the field. Not necessarily the fastest guys, but the guys that have that football speed I'm looking for.
Total yard numbers continue to grow. Here's Jones inside the 10 to the 8. Juwan Jones playing a lot bigger than his 5'9", 187 frame. Picks up 8. Averages 4 yards a carry coming into the game, but those numbers will certainly go up after this drive.
And A&M really missing Jared Morris, their senior middle linebacker, leading active tackler. Boy, that was a really nice block. Kelvin Shashan, the left guard, number 70, 6'5", 303-pound sophomore. He's dominant already. It's going to be really frightening when he's a senior.
Second down and 2. Jones, right side. I don't know. He'll be close. Needed to get to the 6. We'll see where it's marked. It's close.
Well, you were talking about this offense and what they did when they first got here. In '99, of course, their offensive coordinator was Mike Leach, who's gone to Texas Tech. And
'96th in scoring defense out of 117 teams. That's not good, but they are young and continue to improve. First and goal for the Sooners. Oklahoma going for their 27th season of 10 wins or more. Jones gets a block inside the 5. Touchdown, Juwan Jones. From 6 yards out, the sophomore scores.
There's nothing fancy about it. Just roll out. Little inside zone play from the shotgun. Your defense is thinking it might be passed because you've got trips to the left. You bring wide receiver in motion across the formation. So you get no secondary support because they think first and goal from the 6. Sooners might throw it.
What a push off that front line. And the extra point is good. 4:16 to play in the first period. And the top-ranked Sooners look like they're untouchable. Juwan Jones' 6-yard touchdown run makes it 14-0 with 4:16 to play in the first period. One of the longer drives for Oklahoma this year. 4 minutes and 17 seconds. And pretty good numbers for Jones early. Getting a lot of carries as Trey DiCarlo comes in to kick off again. This will be his 3rd kickoff of the game already. And this one might be returnable. This is Murphy, who breaks the tackle and gets to the 25-yard line. And is upended, falls hard.
Well, take a look at the cheap rushing playbook on that touchdown. And this is an unbelievable job by the center, Vince Carter, and Davin Joseph, the guard. You've got 1, 2, 3 to block 1, 2, 3. So that means the center has to scoop up to the front side linebacker, Stakane. And it's Davin who comes around and gets the hook. And then watch as Jones comes up, press, and gets to that side. It's called pressing the cleats. Joe Bugle, who was my coach in the NFL for a while, one of the best offensive line coaches ever, used to tell the running backs, don't make your cut until you're up on the cleats of your offensive line, and that way the backside linebacker can't fill.
Little bit of patience as a runner as Farmer gets the carry. Now, Derek Farmer of Texas A&M, he's a 5'11 junior. He normally starts for A&M. As a matter of fact, coming into this game, 8 of the 9 games the Aggies have played, the first play was a handoff to Farmer. Then he leaves, and Courtney Lewis comes in, and he's their leading rusher, and he gets most of the carries. For instance, last week, Farmer got the first carry, then Lewis ran for 120 yards against Kansas.
And Lewis, a guy that completely surprised Franchione and his staff in the spring. They said all of a sudden we didn't know who this guy was, and 25 kept making big play after big play.
Wow, look at Dan Cody come down the line and make the tackle from behind. The Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week for his play against Oklahoma State. And I mean, he came down that line hard. 6'5", 270-pounder, and he runs like a back.
A 4.5, 840. I mean, I know it's hand timed, but this guy can flat fly.
Watch this.
Crosses, gets flat down the line of scrimmage. Unbelievable. Crosses to the inside. The left tackle not ready for it. That is unbelievable speed for a 280-pound man.
Among 6 finalists for the Ted Hendricks Award. He's there with Dave Ball of UCLA. There are 2 of them. Here's the option, and McNeil gets close to a first down, but it'll be a yard short. Jonathan Jackson made the tackle, and he made it, I believe, before he got to the marker.
Well, the bad news for teams trying to play against Oklahoma, I just mentioned that Cody was a 4.58. Jackson's a 4.55. The slow guy in there, Tommy Harris, is a 4.68. It's unbelievable how fast these guys are.
Well, coming into this ball game, my vote was going to Dave Ball. Still may, but I'm getting a look at Dan Cody
pretty
today,
good,
and we'll see what he does.
Dave Ball has had an amazing year at UCLA. He has been dominant.
Jacob Young on to punt again to Antonio Perkins. And this is always exciting. Last time a penalty of 15 yards. This is a high punt, not a long punt. Again, there's coverage down there on Perkins, and he calls the fair catch. A 35-yard punt and no return. So the Aggies playing pretty strong special teams. Well, here's your singular wireless poll question of the day. Who is the college coach of the year? Pete Carroll at Southern California, Gary Patterson at TCU, John L. Smith, Michigan State, Bob Stoops right here with the Sooners, or Ron Zook of Florida. To vote, log on to ESPN.com, search ABC Sports, or wireless users text your vote to 222.
Who's your vote?
I'm staying right here with Bob Stoops.
I'm going John L. Smith. I think he's done a great job.
I think all of them have done a great job. But you can't vote for all of them.
Well, and coming into the season, Oklahoma was #1 in both polls, but there was that little question mark because of Jason White. He blew out his knee against Nebraska in 2001, blew out his other one against Alabama last year. He lost Trent Smith, Savage, all of these great receivers, and they said, well, what's this offense going to be like? Well, they're averaging 45.1 points a game. I guess they're okay.
The amazing thing is Hickson is the ball carrier. The amazing thing to me is Bob Stoops says this is his strongest team yet here at Oklahoma, and next year could be better.
It is rather frightening when you look at how young this team is.
Bob Stoops right there has the highest winning percentage of any Oklahoma football coach, 85%. 52-9 coming into this game. You're talking about Bud Wilkinson, Barry Switzer, Benny Owens, some great coaches.
And he got to 52-9 with a 52-9 win against Oklahoma State last week.
Here's White with plenty of time, great protection, rolls a little bit right. And now he's got some problems. But White's showing mobility.
Is this Reggie McNeil impersonation?
And he's just short of the first down.
You know, I would think Stoops might go for it here, but their quarterback probably needs some oxygen, so.
Bad knees? What bad knees? His knees may be stronger than they were before.
Well, and he said the second rehab was actually, even though the injury was worse than the first one, was a lot easier because he said, I improved on the things I had to do, and I got back a lot sooner than I did the first time.
Blake Ferguson comes on for Oklahoma. This is his first punt of the day. Van Zandt standing back inside the 15. He throws up an arm for the fair catch. And he's down at the 17. So a 37-yard punt. And let's go down to Sam. Sam?
And Timmy, you guys are talking about Jason White and those 2 bum knees. Well, those 2 reconstructive surgeries enabled him to come back. Now, in both cases, doctors took a tendon from his hamstring opposed to the patella tendon because those tendons are easier to harvest. Now, the long tendons were then folded in half to replace the ACL. Jason told me after his second surgery, he did build up so much scar tissue, they had to go in and do another scope to clean it all out. But he's fine now. Proof is on the field.
All right, Sam, and that's the end of the first 15 minutes here in Norman, Oklahoma, with the Sooners out in front 14-0. So far in this first period, it's been all top-ranked Oklahoma. Second quarter coming up next. Set for the first play of the second quarter. Texas A&M's first 3 possessions, just 31 yards and only 1 first down. The Aggies on the option. Across the 20 goes Lewis.
Separated and have a few of them lose. Ohio State with a tough stretch.
We've discussed that as the game goes on.
With a couple of non-gimmies against Tennessee today and Pittsburgh later in the season.
You said we may be looking at all 2-loss teams.
I hope not.
McNeil, 5-step drop, throws it out to Van Zant. He doesn't have enough for the first down, but he's got a second catch, and it'll bring up 3rd down and short.
Van Zant, one of those guys, a walk-on. In high school, you mentioned he played with the B team. He was so small that the coaches in high school were afraid he was going to get hurt. He's built himself up, 6'1", 201 pounds, and really made himself into a nice receiver. I think you got to get McNeil moving here. Use some of that 4.39 speed. 4.38 or 4.39? What did he say yesterday?
4.39. Flea flicker. Throwing deep. Looking for Murphy. And T. Murph has the catch. First down. No. Incomplete. Stripped away at the last second. Good defense by number 8, Dante Nicholson. Junior college transfer. Playing that Roy position.
Roy Williams. They've named a position after Roy now. Dominating at the NFL level like he dominated for Stoops here at Oklahoma. But this is good job by Nicholson. He plays up around the line of scrimmage in that Roy position. Gets back. Ball slightly underthrown. Ooh, that looked like that was a catch to me. So. Boy, it sure looked like Murphy landed on his back and still had control of the ball.
So here goes Jacob Young again, who's getting a workout today. Comes on to punt to Antonio Perkins.
Young in there because Cody Skates, the normal punter, preseason All-American, has a hernia, not able to kick.
A returnable punt. Perkins has it, looks for a wall. Gives some ground. He's got speed, but again, Texas A&M chases him down. Thielen Jackson with a good tackle, so a 31-yard punt and a loss of 6 by Perkins trying to give ground to set up the wall. 13:53 to play in the half. Was this a catch or was it not? He's got it. He's got it. Looks like a catch.
14-0 and Texas A&M needing all the help they can get against the #1 team in the country. And it looked to us like Murphy had control of this ball. It doesn't matter that Dante Nicholson's arm's in there. It looks like he's got control of the ball as he hits the ground. A tough call for the back judge, but it sure did look like a catch to us.
Called it incomplete, and so the Sooners take over again on offense. This is Jones again, and Jones gets back to the line of scrimmage. Not much more. Good convergence on the play by Tate Thompson and Mike Montgomery. Here's your Aflac trivia question. Who was the last team ranked #1 in both preseason polls to finish the season as national champions?
There's no game of the play.
I'm not giving a hint this week.
This question compliments of Ed Cunningham.
I was given the task this week, so I cheated. I not only know the answer, I made up the question.
Jason White, 6 for 6, 79 yards, 1 touchdown. Here he is to throw again. Throws over the middle. He's 7 for 7. Wilson breaks the tackle and is all the way down to the 42. Travis Wilson, a sophomore. makes his 3rd catch of the season, first this afternoon, and picks up 22.
Jason White last week started the game against Oklahoma State, and you could see that he was overly excited. A lot of his balls over the middle, his out routes just took off out of his hand. He's got tremendous arm strength. He's really settled down. His accuracy was off at the beginning of last week's game. He threw a couple of picks, one of them returned for a touchdown. Didn't hurt them in the 52-9 win, but he looks really calm and in control this afternoon.
Runnels in motion. White again. Looks deep. This time he's got a receiver wide open. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Mark Clayton with his 2nd touchdown catch of the game. 42 yards. White to Clayton.
Looked like Jason White was running up to throw the javelin. Perfect release. Clayton had to slow down just half a step.
Mark Clayton has a touchdown in 6 straight games. He's getting them in pairs now. Trey DiCarlo comes on for the extra point attempt. Splits the sticks, and it's 21-0. You think Oklahoma doesn't remember what happened last year?
Oh.
Broke his ankles in that
Yes,
move.
he did. Great dead leg.
Clayton with his 2nd touchdown catch of the afternoon. (21-0) Oklahoma with 12:42 to play in the first half. Wow. And no return. So the Aggies will start at the 20-yard line.
You know, I said as we were going to break, what a dead leg by Mark Clayton. Here he is right here. He's going to run vertical up the field. And watch as he goes to the outside. Watch what Byron Jones does. He thinks, I'm going to run on an outcut. And then watch the right leg right. As he plants to the outside, he just drops it into the ground. And there is no way anybody in one-on-one coverage with Clayton. He runs so well when he doesn't have to gather his feet to make a cut. He just puts that little leg out there and bam, he's right back to the inside. Byron Jones just didn't have a chance once he turned his back.
Lewis, the I-back behind McNeil. He's got a big hole. And Lewis breaks off an 8-yarder. Let's go back to New York and John Vince. Ohio State only plays close games.
Yeah. They like it to be exciting right down to the end.
And Oklahoma's the opposite.
Well, it's exciting if you're a Sooner fan.
But not close. First down, and T. Murphy has his first catch. Ask you that Aflac trivia question. Who was the last team ranked #1 in both preseason polls to finish the season as national champions? And the answer is
Chris Weinke.
No question about it. Bobby Bowden's Florida State Seminoles, 1999.
Beat Virginia Tech and a young Michael Vick.
Although I will say we asked that question last night at the hotel, and everybody had it right away.
Oh, come on. There was a lot of scratching head in the room. We had Miami called out, Oklahoma called out. Of course, Oklahoma started the season #1 in both polls.
The give straight ahead to Keith Joseph, and Korn picks up a couple of tough ones. Very versatile fullback, arrived in College Station as a 225-pound tailback, and now he's a 256-pound fullback.
He needs to learn 2 words if he wants to stay a tailback. I'm full. Boy, look at those arms, though. He is a big. He'll play some tight end, too. He's a guy, you know, that's the one thing Franchione and his staff did at Alabama. They find guys like this and put them all over.
Yep.
And he's got a lot of versatility.
I agree. He's a load. Nickname is Korn. He does like to eat, you're right. But he's also solid. Here's the option. Good read by McNeil, but just not much there. Whether you're the keeper or the pitch man, they had it well covered. You know, we asked Coach Franchione about his quarterback, Reggie McNeil, and what makes him so special.
Reggie's a combination of a lot of things. #1, he's very athletic. He's a passer, not a thrower. And he's very intelligent. He learns extremely well. It's been impressive to see how much we've been able to give him and him digest and do very well with.
One of the big questions around College Station was, should he have been redshirted, and how good he would be if he had been redshirted. This ball on 3rd down and 5 is incomplete, so they'll have to punt it away again. But not a bad question. I mean, I wouldn't question Coach Fran and what he's doing building his program, because he obviously is a terrific coach and has built programs and knows what he's doing. But I can understand where people would say, well, maybe they should have redshirted him, and he would have even been that much better.
Well, you go back to even last year with R.C. Slocum, but the pressure that R.C. was under, he was trying to win games and get them into a bowl game, and it was a great decision, obviously, to play Reggie last year against Oklahoma. They ended up winning that ball game against the #1 team in the country.
Well, I will tell you this. He is drawing comparisons already to Michael Vick and Donovan McNabb with his strong arm and his mobility and speed. A little bit early for that, but that's quite a compliment. Perkins fair catches it again inside the 20. So Oklahoma a little bit backed up after Young's best punt of the day, a 43-yarder. So 10:01 remaining in the first half. A&M still looking for something to happen positive. They're down 21-0. Here's Bob Stoops moments ago. Listen in. Get a good drive here and wear them down. Well, let me tell you about it. They're good drives. They lead 21-0 with 10:01 to go in the first half.
But when you're sitting with a big #1 on your chest, with a quarterback like Reggie McNeil, who beat you last year, you're not going to be comfortable until about middle of the 4th quarter if you're up 40 or so. You got a guy down. You got to keep him down.
Well, you're playing with a hot hand. Jason White, the quarterback right here, is 8 for 8. Hasn't missed yet. Here's Hickson around the right side. He breaks the tackle and picks up 5. Dante Hickson, 5'10", 194. He's a sophomore out of McKinney, Texas. McKinney High School. The more he's played, the better he's got.
Yeah, the last couple of ball games, he's up close to 100 yards. 29 rushes in the last 2 games for 92 coming into today.
Yeah, and how about this? Carried the ball only 18 times in the first 5 games. So you're right. Those 29 carries for 92 yards in the last 2, he continues to improve.
And with the way Works was running before the injury, Kewan Jones, you've got to figure this guy has talent if he's working his way into the rotation.
2nd down and 4. Big hole off the left side. Look out. All the way out to the 40-yard line goes Dante Hickson. Wes Sims got a big block. He picks up 17 yards.
You know, Carl Torbush was talking about how these guys on the offensive line are relentless finishers, and Wes Sims does an amazing job downfield of finishing his block. He's going to go up to the linebacker, and he just absolutely never, ever quits. Watch this finish. Get your hands in, run him right by. A good run by Hickson to read it, but it's the finish of the block. It's the most important thing. It doesn't matter how you get there, just finish it.
Well, it's just Jones and Hickson today with Ronaldo Works out. There is no 3rd running back today, only 2 freshmen, Choice and Tennille. They're freshmen that they're redshirting, so they aren't here. Here's a pass out to Clayton again, and he slips on the turf at the 40. But his 4th catch picks up another 1st down and is deep into A&M territory. Mark Clayton is special. Pickup of 19. Look at this. Look at the Pontiac drive summary. Last 4 possessions. Touchdown, touchdown. They did have to punt and the touchdown.
And it happens fairly quickly when you have guys like Mark Clayton out there at receiver.
Flags fly. White throws. This is Jones. Touchdown Sooners. But it'll come back. Brandon Jones doesn't like it because it was a touchdown catch for him. But everybody's coming back.
Illegal motion on the offense. It'll be a 5-yard penalty. Replay 1st down.
You know, you'd think Bob Stoops was losing. He is hot.
Well, you don't want to take 7 points off the board no matter what the score is at this point. And they are completely confusing Texas A&M.
Boy, I like Bob Stoops. And I like his brother Mike, too. Quality coaches.
There's a lot of people. There's got to be a lot of programs in this country right now with coaching changes that are starting to like Mike Stoops as well.
1st down, they need 15. Hickson is just drilled. Stikane was there, the linebacker, and really a good tackle.
Good job of getting up inside a line of scrimmage by Stikane.
Well, Stikane's a little bit hot because they started the true freshman Tay Thompson in front of him.
Line of scrimmage is now the 47-yard line. 2nd and 17.
That'll wake you up when they put a true freshman in there.
Oh, yeah.
Torbush is trying to get some things going.
Especially when you're a senior.
Oh, yeah.
2nd down and 16, Ed. They lost a yard on that play. White again with plenty of time. Pass interference.
Oh, yeah.
Jackson Appel threw his body in there and just...
That's a classy move right there. I don't know what the boos are coming for. That was not a dirty play. He was going up on Travis Wilson. He thought he had timed it out perfectly and just went to check on Wilson. He got booed for it. There was nothing dirty about that. He was trying to time it up.
Pass interference, defense, the spot foul and an automatic first down.
Jackson Appel has that warrior mentality. He is just a hard-nosed player that throws his body around. Take another look.
Oh, and the crowd started booing when Appel went over to check on Wilson. I mean, it's a classy move. There was nothing dirty. He didn't lead with his head. He was trying to go make a play on the ball.
Jackson Appel knows the difference between pain and injury, plays with a lot of pain all the time, and I think he's also understands pain on the other side, and that's why he's so concerned here.
And you could see that he was going to make a play on the ball.
And Travis Wilson is up, and that's a good sign. And Appel is happy about it.
Well, and the crowd was booing, and, you know, Appel, watch his eyes. He's trying to make a play on this ball. That's what a safety does. You see the ball coming, go make a play, and it is pass interference, but he's just trying to go make a play on it. And then right away, when he realizes Wilson may be hurt, he walks over to see if he's okay. I don't know how you'd boo a young man with this much class.
So it brings up first down, the ball at the 34. Around the left side, they go with Hickson again. He's got a hole inside the 20, inside the 10 to the 8. Dante Hickson picks up 27 yards, and the Sooners are threatening again.
Both him and Kewan Jones run so much bigger. 5'10", 194 pounds. Hickson. And last year, everyone had such a good time watching Quentin Griffin run, another mini-mite in the backfield, and these guys doing the same thing.
Hickson into the 5. Touchdown Sooners. There is a flag.
And it looked to me like Hickson stepped out of bounds. The field judge got about 15 bodies in his lap, so he couldn't really see what was going on.
Motion, offense.
Oh,
this 5-yard penalty.
This is going to make Bobby happy. He's going to be hot now. You cannot, as you go on this stretch run, trying to get yourself to the Sugar Bowl, an illegal procedure takes away, or excuse me, illegal motion takes away a touchdown to Brandon Jones, and now an illegal shift takes away a supposed touchdown for Dante Hickson.
Boy, Hickson got a lot of carries at practice on Thursday when I was standing out there in the freezing cold, but they were working him hard, and they want him to get more touches than he is today. Hickson tries the right side. Looks for a block. Stutter steps inside the 10, down the sideline, inside the 5. Dante Hickson's impressive.
This is such a well-coached team. You know, we've seen Mark Clayton do so many things with the ball in his hands, running great routes one-on-one. Now he's on the edge on a toss sweep. It's going to come from the right side of your screen. Coming back on a crack. Gets Jackson Appel off his feet and then goes and finishes another block. That is great hustle by Clayton.
Well, Jones had 53 yards. They're giving him a breather now. They come in with Hickson, and Hickson has 58. Second and goal inside the 5. Hickson. He's got to give ground, and he'll lose yardage.
Got to be careful there.
Big old Johnny Jolly made the tackle, and it was a physical tackle.
A young running back is going to tend to do this as the defense starts to stretch out the play they think, oh, I can be patient and then cut underneath. But at some point, you just got to duck your head and say, all right, take what I've got because there's nothing there.
You don't want to turn back into a 290-pound guy that has some downhill speed.
Jolly, come on, Jolly, you got to wrap him up. He just knocked him straight to the ground. He went for the wrap-up, and nobody was there.
See if A&M can make a stop here on 3rd down and goal. Clayton in motion. White, back of the end zone, touchdown Rankins. Jawan Rankins out of Windsor, North Carolina with a 7-yard touchdown catch. His 6th touchdown of the year.
And confusion in the secondary for Carl Torbush. No pressure whatsoever, decides not to bring pressure. He's so worried about this young secondary. And that time, ran a little bit of a rub route. Rankins comes wide open in the back of the end zone.
No disrespect to Texas A&M, but right now, looks like the Sooners could hang 100 on them.
Might put half 100 on them here in the first half.
$6:59 to play in the first half. Sooners are up to 28. Well, if you're counting your Heisman ballots, here are the numbers on number 18, Jason White. 10 for 10, 169 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That scoring drive, 8 plays, 82 yards, 302. And Rankins with the 7-yard touchdown catch. This kickoff will be returned by Terrence Murphy. T-Murph's got a hold. And out across the 25-yard line. Now a flag comes in late. Jason Carter tripped up T-Murph, and he's not getting up. He's shaking up.
That hole you were talking about closed quickly, very quickly.
But it was there for a second.
Holding during the return. Going to be a 10-yard penalty. 1st and 10, A&M. Officials timeout.
And with Jamar Taylor already out for the season, tore his ACL against Nebraska, Terrence Murphy has been Reggie McNeil's guy. Good to see him up moving around.
Boy, it did close.
He got a hit right on his left hip. It's a blur.
Look how quick that hole closed. And Terrence Murphy is a 4.39 guy. That's what he told me last night. Sitting there talking, he says, I run a 4.39. He says McNeil runs a 4.36. And the fastest guy on the team is Chad Schrader, who's a 4.29 guy.
And yet Oklahoma looks faster. That's the amazing.
That's what I mean. There's a 4.39 guy, and the hole closes on him. It looks like he's not moving. Got a big old huddle down at the 15-yard line with all the striped shirts.
Bob was a 2-time All-Big Ten defensive back at Iowa. You think he was a 4.39 guy? I bet he was described as a heady player. A coach on the field.
First down, A&M. McNeil looks on the outcut and underthrows. Intended for Tim.
And viewer discretion is advised right now, because the #1 team in the nation sure looks it.
2nd down and 10. Van Zandt in motion. They give underneath to Farmer. Farmer picks up 6.
It's amazing how quickly the red shirts converge. Calvin Thibodeau in there. They rotate. They have so many defensive linemen that they can rotate in. And they like to keep them fresh. Everybody gets to play. Corey Klein, a guy who's a senior who started 35 games, not even in the starting lineup. He'll get 25, 30 snaps a game. Keep him fresh. He's in there now at the nose guard.
3rd down and 5. The Aggies 0 for 5 on 3rd down conversions today. The give underneath to Lewis. He's not going to get there. Oklahoma stops him again. There is a flag.
But you cannot run right and left on this team. You got to go back. Well, not back, but forward. Of course, the problem is you go backwards a lot against this defense. But you don't want to be trying to outrun a lot of people sideways. when they have red jerseys on with OU on the helmet.
Dead ball, personal foul offense. It'll be half the distance to the goal, 4th down.
And it just gets more frustrating. Well, how do you tell these guys you can't do that when they average 30 points a game? I mean, Texas A&M is a good offensive team. 400 yards of offense. I mean, you cannot let McNeil get to the perimeter if you want to stop him. And yet Oklahoma today has stopped him. They've had great containment. They continue to be aggressive. They're extremely quick. And as you say, they are just dominant. Well, the last time Antonio Perkins caught the ball, Bob Stoops went after him when he got off the field, had some words with him. Let's see what happens here and how he responds. Jacob Young does not have that strong of a leg. They're coming hard. It's not a long punt. Here's Perkins. He's going to return it. He's loose. Perkins gets the corner and is tripped up at the 22. He was almost gone, but Van Zandt tripped him up.
And I think they're going to get Eric Bassey for being in the neutral zone here. He was creeping in. He came off. He was out on the bullet, and he was the guy who nearly got the block, and I think he might have been in the neutral zone. No, they got a hold
on the kicking team prior to the kick. Penalties declined. 1st down.
And the holding had to come because Oklahoma was bringing everybody. Bassey came from the outside. It was an all-out rush.
So a 30-yard punt, a 20-yard return, and Van Zandt, number 83 right there, saved a touchdown.
With Perkins back there, I think you'd want to kick it about 30 yards out of bounds and just take your net 30 and put your defense back on the field, because you let that ball fall anywhere between the numbers and he may take it.
What was UCLA thinking? He returned 3 for touchdowns against them. They just kept kicking it to him.
All of them were kicked right in between the hashes. You've got to put it into the boundary.
White's been perfect today. Let's see if he can continue. Yes, sir. There's a strike to Mark Bradley. Mark Bradley caught a touchdown and threw a touchdown against Oklahoma State. His dad played quarterback for the Sooners, and he makes his first catch of the afternoon.
Bradley is considered the fastest guy on this team. He's thrown a touchdown pass. I mentioned his dad was a quarterback. They're the second father-son combo to throw a touchdown for OU.
He threw a touchdown, he caught a touchdown, and he also has a 100-yard kickoff return against Iowa State this year. Here's the give inside. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Keywan Jones. They didn't wrap him, they lost him. And the hide-and-seek runner hiding behind big blockers, seeking that hole, explodes for a 7-yard touchdown.
That left side, Kelvin Shoshone and Vince Carter, the center, are putting on a clinic. Watch just the flat backs. And he runs right into Shoshone, because Shoshone, even though he didn't get a lot of push, he stays square to the line of scrimmage in those zone run schemes. If your offensive line stays square, it opens up more seams. It gives that running back a two-way go.
With all that contact, I don't think a white jersey touched him.
Wasn't even near him.
DiCarlo again hits the extra point.
And the only way they're going to stop them right now is if Shoshone would have turned around and tackled Keywan Jones on that play.
35-0 Sooners. Clayton with a 40-yard touchdown pass. Jones with a 6-yard touchdown run. Clayton with another touchdown catch. Rankin 7-yard touchdown pass from White, and Jones with that 7-yard touchdown run. Big scoring first half.
Pacific Life game summary. Clayton has been sensational. Jones getting great blocking up front. And Jason White perfect on the day. He has been 11 for 11. His accuracy has been amazing. But this offensive line, I was talking earlier about the defensive line that they have to block every day in practice. You better believe they look forward to Saturdays. And you have to block Tommy Harris, Klein, Dvorak, all of those guys. Saturdays become, it's like a playground out here for this offensive line.
Well, you know, it's amazing. This offensive line has only given up 12 sacks the entire year.
And you put that tape in and you watch them, and teams are blitzing from everywhere. They're very bright. Vince Carter is one of the smartest offensive linemen you'll ever meet. He gets everybody directed, and they never let leakage when people decide to blitz him.
This ball will go through the end zone for another touchback. They'll bring it out to the 20. What a day for Jason White.
he's been okay, hasn't he?
Oh, my.
I'd say he's helping his Heisman chances with a performance like this.
Reggie McNeil goes down again. Tommy Harris got there first. Dvorak may get credit for the sack, and they may split it and each get a half.
And I was in the defensive line room yesterday, and I was reading some of their keys. And the key that they tell them is rush half a man. And watch Dvorak and Tommy Harris. Don't go through the full cylinder of the man. Get to his edge, drop a shoulder, make yourself skinny. And that's just a race to the quarterback. Good explosion off the line by both Harris and Dvorak.
A loss of 8. Second down and 18 over the middle, incomplete. Intended for Terrence Murphy again. Terrence Murphy and Everidge now having some words.
Well, Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator, is so spoiled with this defensive line. They don't have to blitz. If you're playing quarterback against Oklahoma, first of all, you've got no time. On your third or fifth step, the ball better be gone. And then you're always looking at them dropping 7 or 8 guys. There's just not many holes to throw into.
I'll tell you, whatever school out there is looking for a new head coach, Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator here at Oklahoma, may be your guy. Terrific coach, very much like Bob. McNeil in trouble again and throws it away. Intended for Van Zandt, but underthrown. Here's a look at Mike.
And he said on our conversation the other day, that he is more aware now of being a head coach than he's ever been. And Bob said at this stage in his career, he is more ready to be a head coach than I was when I came to Oklahoma in '99.
Well, I can remember a conversation I had with Mike a long time ago out at Kansas State. We sat and we talked, and he then alluded to the fact that he'd like to be a head coach one day, and I think now he's ready. And he's got the pedigree. This punt off the side of the foot.
That might be the right thing to do. Yeah. That might be a great punt.
So his 7th punt of the afternoon is for 29 yards, and there is no return. First down, Oklahoma. White is sacked. The first sack of the afternoon. McDaniel got there along with Johnny Jolly.
And Carl Torbush, the defensive coordinator, still looking for an identity with this defense. Ultimately, he'd like to be a pressure defense where you mix in a little zone pressure. He said, you know, I'm just trying to figure out. We started 2 true freshmen today. That time calls a blitz for a sophomore linebacker, Archie McDaniel, and finally gets a little bit of pressure on Jason White.
So it brings up second down and 15. White throws the out pattern. Can you believe this? He has not missed a pass yet. Runnels picks up good yardage. Close to another first down. He'll be about 3 yards short, maybe 4.
Runnels, a guy, when we were talking to the coach the other day, all the guys who get all the pub, who do we need to know about? And they mentioned first word out of their mouth, Bob Stoops and Chuck Long as offensive coordinator, J.D. Runnels. He's a guy who does so many things for us without the ball in his hands. And now they're giving him a little biscuit here, throwing him the ball. Wouldn't be surprised if they let him run it a few times today.
Well, you don't want to call off the dogs. You want to keep attacking. Here's third down. They need 4. Hickson. First down, Sooners. Well, with the dominance of this game and the way that Oklahoma is moving after that pickup of 7, leading 35-0 with 3:14 to play in the first half. Eventually, we're going to take some of our audience and we'll let you see the Tennessee-Miami game as we continue to move around. That'll be in the second half. But with Oklahoma in complete control, we will let you see some of the better games around the country.
And start seeing some of the teams that maybe be unlucky and get to the Sugar Bowl if Oklahoma continues on this roll. I don't know how many teams can show up down there and really give, if they're playing like this, not many groups can give them a run.
First down, Sooners. This is Clayton. Stops on a dime, turns back to the inside. There's to the corner. No signal. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Mark Clayton with his 3rd touchdown of the first half. This one a 28-yarder. Had to wait for the signal because the official got knocked down in the corner.
The line judge who is in charge. Al Green, excuse me, the line judge is Kelly Durding, who is in charge of seeing if he went out of bounds. Slipped and fell and got run over, and Mark Clayton's too fast for the officials.
So we paused. We waited for the official to get up. He threw his hands up. Touchdown, Oklahoma. DeCarlo adds the 42nd point of the first half.
It's amazing when you look at Oklahoma, and Chuck Long was saying that, you know, with all the guys that we lost, Quentin Griffin, Trent Smith, Antoine Savage, Curtis Fagan, all those four guys are the number 1 through 4 top receivers in the history of Oklahoma. They all left through graduation. And Bob Stoops said, but, you know, I saw these young guys like Clayton, Brandon Jones, we've seen Jawan Rankins, and he knew that this may be the best group of receivers he had. The only question was, can Jason White stay healthy? Now he's answered that, and now he's perfect. 13 for 13. He's doing okay this afternoon.
4 touchdown catches, over 200 yards. As you look at Chuck Long, who was not a bad quarterback in his own right, offensive coordinator.
Speaking of the Heisman, he still holds the distinction of coming in second by the closest margin ever. Bo Jackson in 1985.
4 plays, 42 yards. And again, it's under 2 minutes. Clayton, his 3rd touchdown reception.
And here is the deal. What do you get to do after you score a touchdown for Bob Stoops? What does he do? He puts his fastest, most aggressive players out to cover the kick. There are no holes on this team.
The amazing thing is, under Bob Stoops, Oklahoma's had almost 170 scoring drives of under 2 minutes. 2 minutes or less. A quick strike offense.
Slow down. Why are you so impatient? Guys like Clayton make that happen.
And this one will not be returned, and they'll down it for a touchback and bring it out to the 20. Well, we talked to Bob Stoops about this team and how he compares it to his 2000 team that won it all.
We're probably more mature with this team, and I think overall stronger as a team. We're deeper. We're more talented probably at most positions. And so what will yet to be determined is, can we keep the focus like we did in 2000.
15-yard penalty, 1st and 10.
Non-contact foul against Oklahoma, 15-yard penalty, so that'll add some yardage for A&M, but it's scary when you think that this team is better than the 2000 team, and he says next year with almost everybody coming back, they'll be even better.
It's unreal what they've done. There are some guys who obviously will stick their toe in the pool of the NFL draft to test the water.
First down, A&M. Lewis loses yardage.
And there's Calvin Thibodeau, a sophomore defensive end. And this is the way they like their defensive ends. He's just a touch under 250 pounds with track-like speed. When you have the big guys in the middle with Harris, Klein, Dvorak, all those guys holding up bodies, you can just get jet setters on the outside. Florida State's been doing it for years. It really works. Nice blueprint.
Second down and 12. Pressure on McNeil, sacked, and another penalty goes down. Rodney Poole with his first sack of the year. I think I just heard Roll Tide. You know, an Alabama fan, seriously, an Alabama fan on the internet asked Sooner fans for a favor, yell Roll Tide at Franchone, and Alabama fans have long memories. I mean, their mascot's an elephant, but, you know, they...
The penalties declined, 3rd down.
Well, and nobody can fault Dennis Franchione for leaving Alabama. I mean, this was his dream to come here. He got a lot of money, but the way he left still keeps people in Alabama talking, and they will talk for... Did not come back and say goodbye to his players. had Carl Torbush's defensive coordinator do that. So even though nobody in Alabama faults him for what he did, they really don't like the way that he left town.
Well, and you know, I was always in his side of the court. You and I had that discussion on the air.
Blame the guy for
I had no problems with that. Felt sorry for the players. I can understand both sides. McNeil in trouble again, trying to scramble out, and he's not going to get away. Stopped by Lynn Magruder.
You know, they list Magruder at 290. If he's 290, I'm 142 pounds.
I know he runs like he's 190.
That's a 310-pound man if I've ever seen one.
But he does run like he's...
Oh, yes, he does. Like about 240. Well, in the last play, Mike Stoops, one of the rare times that he'll actually bring a blitz. We mentioned that Roy position. It was funny when they said the other day, Mike said, listen, we start in really a 4-2-5, a nickel defense. And then Dante Nicholson comes down in our Roy position. I said, whoa, because a lot of people call it the Rover. I said, Roy? He said, well, yeah, we just kind of call it that because of Roy Williams. Okay. You don't get a street named after you, but I'd rather have a position than a street named after me if it were up to me.
I don't know if it's the position or not, but Dante Nicholson has emerged as one of the top DBs in the Big 12.
He's got great instincts up around the line of scrimmage.
Tough time handling the snap. This is a high knuckleball. Perkins is hit trying to get to the ball. Ball goes out of bounds, no flags, and so Oklahoma once again will have now a flag flies all the way back by the 42-yard line. This might be a sportsmanlike
a little frustration,
problem.
A little frustration going on. Probably one of those annoying offsetting.
Well, it was only a 28-yard punt.
Personal fouls on both teams. They offset. 1st and 10.
He hit me. I hit him back. It's like when you're fighting with your brother. It all started when he hit me back.
Last year, A&M's win over top-ranked Oklahoma marked only the only time in 51 tries that an unranked opponent defeated the Sooners when they were ranked #1. And these Sooners today were not going to let that happen again. Jason White, 13 for 13, make it 14 for 14. This is Clayton looking for blocking. He's got some, and he's got a first down for the Sooners. Inside the 40, 6 catches now for Mark Clayton.
White,
yeah,
White now broke Cale Gundy's record of 12 straight completions. Cale now the running backs coach for Bob Stoops. I'm sure he's happy to see that record get broken.
And there's your first incompletion.
And it's a drop. And the crowd gives out a little sigh. Juwan Rankins. That accuracy is unbelievable.
Well, Rankins made that big catch last week. As a matter of fact, kept his feet in at the 18 on 3rd down and 8 to get Oklahoma rolling. And there are his numbers, 14 of 15 now after Rankins' drop pass. 2nd down and 10. Throws a strike. It's complete. And Clayton has another first down to the 22. Pickup of 18. Move the chains. 51 seconds.
It's about
left in the half.
About time White got back on track. Make me nervous with that one incompletion.
White again, and throws another incompletion.
Well, that one you can't put on Rankins. I mean, it hits him in the hands, but that was just a wee bit behind. Look at his face. He's mad at himself. And quarterbacks, when they get on a roll, they're picking spots on receivers. And when they get a guy with the accuracy of White, where is the defense set up? When a guy runs a hitch or a sit down in his zone, if I put it to his inside, he knows to run to the inside because that's where the green grass is. Outside spin to the outside. That time he missed on Rankins.
2nd down and 10. Throw over the middle. Incomplete. Almost picked off. And now the flag comes in. Interference will be called on Brian Singleton.
Well, I don't know about that one.
Singleton's the dime back, and he doesn't like the call either.
Sure looked like Singleton got there. right as the ball got there.
Holding defense on an eligible receiver. It's a 10-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
Okay, so they didn't call Singleton. Nope. Yeah, it looked to me like Singleton made a heck of a play on the ball.
Well, he was the one that thought the flag was thrown in his direction. They might have gotten Singleton, though, for holding on the break. First down and 10 for the Sooners. Over the middle. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Travis Wilson. And the 6'3" sophomore from Carrollton, Texas, is on fire here this afternoon. Came into the game with only a couple catches.
They had to debate whether Travis Wilson had control of the ball when he hit the ground. The officials got together and decided that he did in fact have it.
Well, he had the 12-yard touchdown catch, and they now have 48 on the board. So I thought when you said a half 100 by half was, I thought you were being facetious.
No, you just get a feeling when an offense and a quarterback is clicking like this.
The extra point, now the Heisman chance begins.
You take a look at Jason White, and the Heisman chance start coming. You've got to figure Larry Fitzgerald and Eli Manning are the front runners. But White, coming back from those knee injuries, he's got so many things. We've seen his accuracy, only a couple of incompletions, but they were just off the mark. He's very smart. His mental toughness, we know about that because coming back from those two injuries. And that arm is awfully strong. 16 of 18, 263, 5 touchdowns. He's doing okay this afternoon.
And for all you Aggie fans on the other side of the fence, and I know A&M is headed in the direction of its first losing season since 1982. But Coach Fran is a fine coach. I mean, he won at New Mexico. He built a program at TCU. His credentials are solid. And I know this is frustrating. And I was a big RC fan, too. R.C. Slocum, I think, is one of the best coaches I've ever met. He was 40-22 in his last 5 years and was pushed over. But now that the move is made, you got to jump on board with Coach Fran and just believe he's going to turn things around.
And don't discount losing a guy like Jamar Taylor. They lost 2 offensive linemen, Jamie Hightower and Andre Brooks. Jared Morris, their middle linebackers, out for the season. They're missing some very key veteran guys.
You know, last week we were in Penn State, and they're giving Joe Paterno a tough time should he go, rather than just sitting back and watching a legend luminary finish his career, trying to push him out. And that would not be an easy transition.
A little bit of domination in this quarter.
Whew. Look at those numbers. Set down with Jason White, and he's got numbers that are just phenomenal here in the first half. Van Zandt in motion on first down. Aggies need something positive. This is Lewis. Picks up a yard or two. They're just going to try to get to the house.
Les Kenny, the offensive coordinator for Franchione. He probably got from the headset of Coach Fran, you know what, let's just run this thing out. Let's go in, regroup, make a couple adjustments, and come out and see if we can't be competitive in the second half.
Voracek comes out with a just his right arm is dangling. Might have gotten a stinger, and that'll do it. First half comes to an end. Oklahoma 49, Texas A&M nothing. When we come back, some of you in the second half will be taken to that Tennessee-Miami game. This one so far has been all Sooners.
Square in New York, John Saunders, Terry Bowden, and Craig James.
They may as well be playing this game in Times Square. That's how much room it seems that Oklahoma has on the football field with a 49-0 lead over Texas A&M. You knew they'd come out because they lost to them last year. But a bigger question right now, obviously they look like they're the best team in the country this year. Are they better than the Oklahoma team that won the national championship a couple
I'd
years
rather
ago.
have to play that team back then than this one here, because when you start looking at the number of points that they've scored, it's 50 points like 5 times already. This will be the 6th time this season. I think it's one of the best teams of all time. If they should run the table in today's era of parity, this would have to be considered one of the best teams of all time.
You haven't even seen all the best teams of all time.
Don't need to.
It's about Jason White, their quarterback. Their Jason White is so much better than Josh Hipple or Nate Heibel. They were great quarterbacks. This guy is not screw that up. Josh and Nate. Josh is better than both of them. You remember Nate and Josh, but Jason is better. He's great. He makes them a much better team.
You see those guys? You busted on me for not watching the old team.
Josh Heupel and Nate Hibble.
That's it. Well, what'd I say?
You did it backwards.
Okay,
Yeah, kind of had to go.
Hibble.
Season we all made our picks as who we thought would be in the national championship game. Let's take a look at yours first.
Which one? Which one?
You're dancing.
Obviously, Oklahoma, I'm still there. Michigan, I'm like their worst enemy when I pick them. If I pick you, you're going to lose. Miami, I picked you, Miami. Then you did that against Virginia Tech. So I wanted to stay with you. But you know what? I looked at USC's strength of schedule. They're going to win the rest of their games and win out.
Yeah, well, I kind of, Oklahoma, I'm glad I had them there. And you know what I'm really proud of is I think I only have 3 X's. And I'm back to USC. Why didn't I have the guts to just stick with them?
Yeah,
But,
you had them all beginning.
Saunders pointing to the wisdom.
I know. Look at that. I had Michigan out right away, Oklahoma, USC, Florida State, then Miami. They stuck around for a while. Mine has more X's on it than a ballot in Florida. I mean, you're not sure which one to count. USC is out of there, or USC rather is back in there. But the way things line up, there's no guarantee that USC is going to stay in that number 2 position.
In the first half, the Texas A&M Aggies have escaped with only 47 yards total offense. The Sooners have been swarming. It's been all Oklahoma. A year ago, they were the Rose Bowl winner. This year, they're aiming for the national title. Oklahoma's been sweet. Jason White, 16 of 18, 263 yards and 5 touchdowns. Second half next. Some of the fans have had enough. They said, okay, 49-0. I'm going to go home, watch the rest of it in the comfort of my own home. Tim Brand, Ed Cunningham back with you here at Memorial Stadium, Owens Field. And you know, when the game started, I asked you, could Texas A&M come in here and upset them again like they did last year? And you gave an argument that maybe.
Well, with McNeil at quarterback, you would think. But
I ask you now, can they score?
Oh, it's tough to. They have to get further along. In the first half, they only made it to their own 41-yard line, never got beyond midfield. And I think a lot of these fans that are going home, I think they're getting on orbits and trying to make travel reservations for Kansas City and then on to New York. Because this is, hands down, one of the best teams. And I agree with Craig James. This may be one of the best teams of all time.
Well, hold on here. Don't give them that free pass yet. Like Bob Stoops says, they haven't won anything, but look out again. They're on the warpath. Oh, are you kidding me? Terrence Thomas. And a big return.
We'll take a look at how dominating that first half really was with our Pacific Life game summary. Drop all the way down to the bottom. And, I mean, you have to find some good news if you're an Aggie. 8 punts. Antonio Perkins didn't return one of them for a touchdown.
Well, Rankins with a big return, and
that's the best
Oklahoma again in A&M territory. A 49-yard return, and we start all over.
A new quarterback in.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
When you think about Jason White has finished only 3 games this year because of the big leads. So you get him out of there. You give Thompson, the sophomore, some reps. He's 6'4", 201-pounder. He's hit 81% of his passes. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
And the offense changes a little bit now because Thompson, although White a good athlete with 2 bad knees, you're not going to run him a lot. Thompson, a very good athlete. You can use a lot of quarterback draws, leads, and everything like that.
Juwan Jones runs into a wall, so he picks up a couple of yards, and that's it.
And Thompson, a sophomore, moves into that second-string slot when Brent Rawls decided to transfer.
Every aspect of this team, Ed, is so strong. The defense is dominant. The offense puts up a lot of points as you look at Jason White's numbers, 16 of 18. But then the special teams with Perkins, and then Rankin starts the second half with a big return here, and they're in great field position. Fake to Jones. Looks over the middle, and it's incomplete, intended for Travis Wilson, who cut the touchdown pass before the end of the half. And Ray Jones tips it.
Got a little tip on it. First half for Jason White, it was like a playground. He was playing 7-on-7 because the offensive line was blocking the front four. And we showed that animation right before the end of the half about his accuracy. Boy, he was spot on. Struggled a little bit last week against the Cowboys early on. But he came out, looked so confident in that pocket. The offensive line just built a wall in front of him, and he went to work.
3rd down and 8, Oklahoma. Here's Travis Wilson again, and Wilson has enough for the first down. So he makes his 3rd catch of the game, moves it down to the 29. First down, Oklahoma.
Wilson got some of that red from the end zone. You can barely see the number 4 on the front, and it took a while for the officials to realize he, in fact, did have control of it for the last touchdown of the half. Thompson looking. He's got a nice touch on that ball. He's got plenty of arm, but that time he kind of floats it in there and makes it a very easy catch for Wilson.
Oklahoma in the middle of a 3-game homestand here in Norman. Last week, Oklahoma State. Today, A&M. Baylor's next. And look out, Thompson's going. Touchdown, Oklahoma. And it just continues. A 29-yard touchdown by Paul Thompson. Are you kidding me?
Well, and if you're the backside defensive end for A&M and Thompson's in there instead of Jason White, you better stay home. On anything away, the guy with the ability to run of Thompson. And not that they won't run that play with White. He's a good athlete. He's 100% recovered from both his ACL tears. But when you have a guy like Thompson, if you're A&M, you better be staying home on the backside.
DiCarlo with the extra point attempt. Good snap, good hold. Whoops. It's good. Barely.
Snuck it in. Well, I said half 100 at the half. You said maybe 100. Oh, boy. I don't know, but that's awfully good offense to start out.
I'll tell you this. Coach Fran's going to find out a lot about his club today. Will they quit or will they continue to play?
Better not quit.
How about these numbers? 50 points in 5 straight games, the last 5.
Well, that's 6 total on the season. They've got a record for 50 points in 5 straight, which broke their record they had set last week for 4 straight against Oklahoma State. But now with 6 total on the season, they surpassed the 1987 Oklahoma Sooners for 50+ in a season.
Look at these numbers. Do you believe this? 428 yards and 9 possessions, 8 touchdowns for Oklahoma.
Well, A&M's hanging in there with time of possession. They're only minute 59 down there.
First down, Aggies. Farmer's your tailback. McNeil still your quarterback. Long count. Farmer straight ahead picks up 2. Dan Cody made the tackle.
And if you're an Aggie fan, you might be thinking, well, why don't we get Dustin Long in there, the junior quarterback who last year set all kinds of A&M records. Had a game for 399 yards against Kansas, which was the best all time. But at this stage in the game, you said they're going to learn, Franchione and his staff are going to learn a lot about their young players. Well, Reggie McNeil is your quarterback of the future. He's your sophomore. Leave him in there against a great defense and let him take some lumps and learn some lessons here against the best defense in the land.
They need 8 on 2nd down. They throw the out pattern. They've got it complete. And Joseph is out of bounds at the 27, but there is another flag. Well, you're putting Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. Who do you have them playing?
Uh-oh. Here we go. I think the second best team in the country right now is USC. I'm just not convinced with their schedule. They have to blow out all of those teams that they have left. Arizona, UCLA, and Oregon State, I think, to stay strong in the polls.
Defense, 5-yard penalty, replay 2nd down.
Well, let me ask you this then. In the championship game, is it the hottest team that's in December, or is it the 2003-04 season's national champion or challenge 2? I mean, Southern Cal lost to Cal. I do believe what Kellen Winslow says there. USC lost to Cal 34-31.
Well, you know, that halftime piece was so entertaining because then you start going into who beat whom all over the country, and Like John said, that's why you have the BCS. It's impossible to play that game.
2nd down and 3, and they're not going to make it. Farmer straight ahead is met by Dante Nicholson, Jackson, and Allen.
And Dusty Dvorak, a guy who he doesn't get the hype because Tommy Harris had such a great freshman year. Was all Big 12. But this guy plugs the middle. They run a defense very, very similar. Their front, very similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Dvorak plays Booger McFarland. He plays the nose guard. And then Tommy Harris goes over the guard, so they're trying to get him one-on-one. And those two guys, they lock up those 3 linemen, but they're not just grabbing guys, not letting them get the linebackers. They're penetrators getting into the backfield.
3rd down and 2. Look out. McNeil gets out of the pocket, but doesn't get enough for the first.
And this is where you see the amazing speed of this defense. Jonathan Jackson, the defensive end, comes down inside. Watch him get washed in, and then he's running out. We're talking about a sub 4.4 quarterback. And this is a 240-pound defensive end who closes on him and stops him from picking up the first down. I mean, it's just sick. What are you going to do?
Jacob Young has had a very busy afternoon, but really hasn't had very many long punts. Perkins at the 35-yard line with a fair catch. So a 37-yard punt, no return. 11:39 to play in the 3rd period. 56-0. The Oklahoma Sooners, and they're loving it here in Norman. Just outside the stadium here on the campus of University of Oklahoma. As you look at Bob Stoops, and now in his 5th season at Oklahoma, 52 wins and a national championship, 3-1 in bowls. He's done everything right. He's embraced the tradition, the ex-players, ex-coaches. He's very confident, and his players feed off that confidence.
The most amazing stat on Bob Stoops, 11-1 at Oklahoma against top 10 opponents.
1st down, Sooners. And just like that, Jones picks up 6 yards. Let's go down to Sam.
Well, Timmy, you've been speaking about Jason White, the Heisman candidate. Earlier this week, the Heisman Trophy Committee acknowledged him. He received a packet in the mail on Monday from the Heisman Trophy Committee. It was sent out to about 20 potential candidates. Jason told me last year he watched the Heisman Trophy presentation on TV and said to his buddies, how cool would that be to win the Heisman? Well, he said they snickered at him in his 2 bum knees, so he used that as added motivation. As we know, the winner will be announced December 13th.
And I'll tell you why he's going to win it.
Why?
Although I don't necessarily believe, oh, what a play here by Thompson. And Hickson is loose and picks up a 1st down, and there's a flag at the 45.
They're going to Brandon Jones. It'll be a 1st down. So you don't think Jason White's going to win the Heisman?
I do think he's going to. I said I'm going to tell you why he's going to win it, although I'm not certain he's the best player in the country.
Well, that might be Larry Fitzgerald.
I think it is Larry Fitzgerald, and this is holding against the Sooners. Jason White is going to win the Heisman for several reasons. His team is #1 in the nation. They get as much TV exposure as anybody.
Holding, offense, it's a 10-yard penalty, replay 2nd down.
The last 4 winners of the Heisman have played for BCS teams, and he is. His position is quarterback. The last 3 winners of the Heisman have been quarterbacks. His ability to throw deep makes good highlights for ESPN and all the TV shows. The OU system minimizes mistakes, and they don't make many. His story with his knees is one of the best stories of perseverance in college football. And for all of those reasons, even if he's not the best overall player in the country, he will win the Heisman.
I give you a B+ on your thesis.
Thank you.
Going for your doctorate in Heismanology. You really thought that out. I don't have an argument.
Well, if I'm going to argue,
you're going to do your homework, yeah.
And Rankins takes it all the way down inside the 40. But I agree with you. Larry, I think, is the best player in the country.
And the back east vote, you can't discount that. Although, Jason, there is no East Coast bias when you're talking about Oklahoma. I mean, this is one of the best programs ever. Although he might get pushed for a starting job if Thompson keeps playing like this. I'm joking, of course.
You got my attention.
Yeah.
I looked over to see if you were kidding.
Yeah, that didn't come off as satirical as I wanted it to, so I made sure you knew I was joking.
Pickup of 24, followed by Thompson, and Thompson's loose
Like I
again.
said,
He's got another first down.
Bench that white kid. This is a dynamic player.
Stop it.
Well, this is what you can do with Thompson at quarterback. You can't do this with White.
All letters are to be sent to Ed Cunningham, a pickup of 14.
Boy, this is nice. Yeah, and you have to, that's the play that Jason White was running so many times early to Kewan Jones, and they were picking up 6, 7, 8 yards a bunch. You've got to honor that.
This is Hickson around his left side, and Hickson's inside the 10. Ray Jones makes the stop after a gain of 21, but again, they're just picking him up in chunks.
And Hickson, they list him at 5'10". He's 5'8" on a good day with his cleats on. He's a short stepper now. NFL scouts look at receivers, and if a guy covers 5 yards in 2 steps, they consider that unbelievable speed. They call it two-stepping. Takes him about 7 steps to cover 5 yards.
Look at yards per play. Almost 10 yards per play. This is not the wrecking crew of old. Hickson inside the 5 to the 4. Again, Ronaldo Works has been a workhorse for the Sooners, but he's out with that bruised back. Suffered in last week's win over Oklahoma State. He'll be back against Baylor, but today it's been all Jones and Hickson, and here's Hickson.
And they're getting some of their backup offensive linemen in there. This goes such a long way. Chris Bush now in at center. Chris Messner in at right guard, a freshman and a sophomore. They're so young on this offensive line. Now they're building depth, and it just gets scarier and scarier when you start thinking about these Sooners in 04 as well as 03.
Hickson gets back to the line of scrimmage, pushes the pile, may have gained a yard. Scott Stickane was in there to make the tackle.
Stickane, you mentioned, was a senior, was benched for a true freshman at the start of the game.
He's been pretty solid, though. He's played a good, solid game here.
And Tay Thompson is going to be a good player, but against a team like Oklahoma, Carl Torbush knew he was taking a big risk putting someone in there who doesn't know all the formations yet, and I think Stickane is the guy they need to stick with.
3rd down and goal. Thompson, touchdown Oklahoma. Paul Thompson from 3 yards out.
Jason White who? You don't think Jason White's enjoying this?
Oh, I know he is. He's a team player.
And Thompson runs right over Stickane, the middle linebacker.
Never fails. Give a guy a good pop, and they go right at him.
Oh, actually, that's Jackson Appel. Excuse me. It looked like Stickane came over the top, but you don't feel this bad if you're Texas A&M and it's your free safety, not your middle linebacker getting run over by a quarterback.
And the extra point is good. Oklahoma 62. He adds one more to make it 63. And with 8:35 to play in the 3rd, it's ugly. Well, they're enjoying this in Norman, Oklahoma this afternoon. 63-0. The #1 Sooners really hanging it on the Texas A&M Aggies. And for Coach Dennis Franchione, in his first year at Texas A&M, this may be one of the worst losses he's ever experienced. I mean, they are just being hammered. And he's up against it, trying to match the #1 team in the nation, trying to match last season's 6-6 record under R.C. Slocum. He's not going to get that. But remember, Coach Fran started 3-5 in his first year at Alabama, won 3 straight, went to a bowl there. But he's rebuilt programs. I mean, he rebuilt programs at TCU. They're still experiencing success. So
New Mexico.
Absolutely.
Great job.
So you got to believe he's going to be rebuilding the program.
And the bad news for Texas A&M, at Missouri and Texas at home to finish. All 3 opponents, including Oklahoma, ranked in the top 25. Although it'll get easier from here, not much.
1st down and 10 for A&M. McNeil still your quarterback. The give is to Farmer. Farmer picks up 3 tough yards.
And all of the starters for Texas A&M, their offensive line still in there. Kirk, Handgarter, De La Garza in the middle. And you were talking about Francione figuring out what's going on with his defense and his offense, and just trying to find guys. I think this is a good move. You know, you worry about maybe some injuries, but I just think that you have to allow this team to grow in this new system.
De La Garza, you mentioned, bench press is 460 pounds. His idol has been Anthony Munoz. This pass incomplete, broken up nicely. But De La Garza and Hartgartner and Kirk, those guys today are up against, they're not only facing big guys, but they're facing big guys with speed.
That's the hardest thing as a former offensive lineman. I wanted them big and slow or quick and small. Well, you've got big, quick guys for Oklahoma. It is so hard. And these guys all get on your edge. You're just trying to just reach and grab all you can.
You know who was the first guy to make that statement? Benny Owens, coached right here at Oklahoma. He was the guy that came up with the theory, small, quick guys can outrun and beat the big, old, strong, slow guys every time.
Well, the problem is
McNeil taken down by Thibodeau.
What about the big, quick guys? Well, they're the #1 team in the country.
Well, Benny Owens didn't lose very much, so he had a pretty good philosophy. And now they're playing on his field, Owens Field. Look at this.
And all of this developed when Bob Stoops was at Florida working under Steve Spurrier. Spurrier gave him so much freedom to tinker and experiment with all kinds of different things. He found something he's liked, and him and his brother Mike have installed it here. I guess they've had a little success with it.
And certainly one of the constants, even there and here, speed. This is a high tail wagger, one of his better punts of this afternoon. Perkins takes this and is hit immediately. So it's a 47-yard punt and no return. BCS standings are brought to you by Allstate, and this is the way they look this week coming into this weekend. Oklahoma #1, then all your one-loss teams until you get all the way down to Michigan with 2 losses, and then TCU still unbeaten.
They're sitting out, you know, everyone's saying they're not a player in the BCS. Well, if they finish in the top 6, they get an automatic berth to a BCS bowl.
But Ed, they're going to have a tough time getting to the top 6. TCU had 4 straight wins of a touchdown or less over South Florida, UAB, Houston, and Louisville.
But Tim, you've got, if teams end up with 2 losses all above them, because they'll have 0 in that ad column at the very end. You get 2 losses a bunch above them, they could sneak in and be a BCS
but
player.
That is big against them. With
I agree.
I mean,
I've seen them play. I've seen TCU play several times this year. I don't think they're quite at the level of these top-tier teams. No one's at the level right now of Oklahoma. But you get 2 or 3 of those teams above them with 2 losses, they could sneak up.
What's really big in the BCS formula this year, strength of schedule will play a major part. Here's Hickson. Hickson's got a big hole and explodes across midfield and again into A&M territory to the 44. Pickup of 16 yards. Here's the other thing. You look at the one-loss teams. Southern California lost to Cal 34-31. Florida State went down to Miami. Miami lost big to Virginia Tech. Ohio State lost in the rain by a touchdown to Wisconsin.
And I don't think Virginia Tech, one of the things that I didn't like that they did in the BCS formula, it was kind of a sportsmanship thing. They took out margin of victory out of the computers. And I don't think Virginia Tech got enough of a bump for beating Miami 31-7. They should have, in my opinion, got a much bigger bump off of that big victory.
Hickson explodes for another first down, and I agree, but even though it is not technically in the formula anymore, they still
the opinion polls,
there's no question.
Of course, the opinion polls do, but the computer averages carry as much weight as the opinion polls do.
Well, Southern California still has to play. Well, they play Arizona today. Then they play UCLA and Washington State. And UCLA and Washington State are playing this afternoon.
And that's the thing. I think USC has to blow all those teams out, because Florida State sitting there with a game at the end of the year at Florida. If they win that big, I think they become a player for the Sugar Bowl if they win out.
Hickson again. Florida State plays Clemson, then NC State, and at Florida, so they don't have an easy road. NC State always gives them fits. Florida is 6-3, and at Clemson, The Bowden Bowl this year, and I know Terry's listening, but the Bowden Bowl, maybe he's not with 63-0. But the Bowden Bowl this year is ugly. I mean, it's not fun this year.
No.
Because Bobby needs a big win to stay in the national, and Tommy is in really dire straits.
Yeah. And you can say all you want about Tommy Bowden, and they haven't done the things that some of the fans had hoped. We did a game a few weeks ago. He has 8 guys that start for him that are graduates already. He's done a great job with his student athletes, and you can argue all you want about the success on the field. Off the field, Tommy Bowden has run a very tight ship at Clemson. But I think in Death Valley it's going to get ugly. I really think it's going to get ugly. Well, you got Paul Thompson in there at quarterback. And we've already seen him run for a touchdown. A little rollout here. See some of that great speed.
Moses is in motion. Throws a block. And he splits the hole and opens it up big. A gain of 8. Let's go back to New York. What is it about Ohio State where every game is close? And it was like that last year when they won the national championship. Here's Hickson. Touchdown Sooners. There is a flag at the 16.
Well, the guy in the guys in the white shirts have had no luck whatsoever slowing down Oklahoma. The only thing that has slowed them down is the guy in the striped shirts. And that's the hard part for Bob Stoops and his staff. When we talked to him the other day about this team and its weaknesses, he kind of, he came up with a few things, as all coaches will, but there'll be a few things he can harp on. A couple of illegal procedures, one that cost Brandon Jones a touchdown, an illegal motion that cost Hickson a touchdown earlier, and now a holding call.
He'll find something. You're right.
Yes,
I mean, he is a master of motivation.
Was it Jason White that was telling us he has such a good thumb on the pulse of every player and every individual player and what it takes to motivate them individually, and he uses it with each guy.
Thompson inside the 10, inside the 5 goes Paul Thompson. What an afternoon he's having in relief of Jason White. A pickup of 22 yards.
Taking some risk now, Carl Torbush is moving some defensive linemen around. Slanting guys, just trying to make anything happen. Had some young guys in there. Defensive end slants inside, and watch Thompson just fill the void.
Good fake to Hickson, too.
And David Ross, the defensive end, thought, oh, I'm going to make a tackle for a loss. Oops. They did it again.
Thompson now 5 carries, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Timeout Oklahoma. And the once proud wrecking crew now rebuilding and really taking it on the chin here this afternoon.
Let's go communicate.
See what they have to say.
Head coach of the University of Oklahoma women's basketball team. This year, the Great Team Classic presented by your Oklahoma coordinator will be playing at Ford Center in Oklahoma City on Saturday, November 27th. 4 great teams will compete in 2 exciting games, and you can witness it all for one low price. Oklahoma State and Tulsa square off at noon, followed by my Sooners and Oral Roberts at approximately 2:30.
Backside, only reach a bear.
Don't miss out and get your tickets now. See you at the Ford Center.
Jump the wing right. Jump up. Jump base, let go.
Needs to know if it's a bear front.
Bear being the old cover the center and both guards. Call it bear because it was invented when Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. And that's Kevin Wilson and also Josh Heupel. You might have seen him in there. But Kevin Wilson came in when Mark Mangino left to take over the Kansas program from Northwestern. And he has done a masterful job with this offensive line.
First down and goal. Hickson to the 3. Under 3 minutes to play in the 3rd period.
We've been talking a lot, Tim, about Mike Stoops and the fact that he is ready. He's ripe to be a head coach. And who knows if it'll be this year. He's not just going to jump. But on the offensive side of the ball, when they first got here, when the Stoops brothers first got here, Mike Leach was their offensive coordinator. He went to Texas Tech. Then Mark Mangino moved up. He goes to Kansas. They bring Chuck Long in. He coaches quarterbacks for a while. Now he goes to offensive coordinator. And when Mangino left, they brought in Wilson. And the system has stayed intact. And obviously they've tweaked it even from last year when Quentin Griffin was the featured back. But the terminology is saying they haven't changed language, and they've just continually added to their system.
2nd and goal. This is Hickson inside the 5. Touchdown, Oklahoma.
That's great lower body strength. Tay Thompson, the middle linebacker, true freshman, runs over there and looks like he has an angle, and Hickson just steps right through his tackle.
Hickson knows how to get to that corner, too. Uses every inch of the field to get to the pylon.
He's got that low center of gravity. Him and Kewan Jones built very similar.
5'10", 194-pound sophomore from McKinney High School in McKinney, Texas. The extra point is good. And we're at 70. 2:13 to play in the 3rd period. The Sooners continue to pile it on. Well, it's been all Oklahoma this afternoon, and 70-0 is our score right now. 2:13 remaining to play in the 3rd period.
And that's Josh Heupel, who knows a thing or two about playing good quarterback. He's now a graduate assistant.
I thought it was Justin Timberlake.
Justin's working for us on the NBA now. I didn't know he was also helping out on our football broadcast, coaching quarterback at Oklahoma.
Terrence Thomas takes it at the 5 and gets back to the 15. At the conclusion of today's game, we will select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund.
You know, for Oklahoma, I think it's got to be Paul Thompson.
You're in the tank for Thompson.
The backup quarterback.
You are in the tank for Thompson. What's the worst loss you ever suffered when you were at the University of Washington or with the Arizona Cardinals?
The first question I can answer. The second question would take until tomorrow afternoon about this time.
Well, that's why I threw in the wild card. Here's Lewis. Ball's loose. Oklahoma has it. Derek Strait, touchdown Sooners. Derek Strait, the senior out of Austin, Texas, picked it up, scoop, and score. Touchdown, Oklahoma. 17 yards.
How many times did you hear that, Timmy, while you're at the University of Maryland? How many times did you hear your defensive coordinator or linebacker coach yelling? It's so stuck in my head. Scoop and score. Every time the ball's on the ground, those defensive coaches get awful greedy when the ball's on the ground.
Yeah, they
want
do.
7 points for themselves, not the offense.
And the extra point makes it unbelievable. Are you kidding me? 77-0. You know, it's amazing. Almost every game we've had this year as a broadcast team has been close. I mean, we had, what, 51-49 with Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. Last week, Penn State, Ohio State was 21-20.
And we've seen some good teams. We've done Ohio State twice. We've done Florida State twice. We'll see them again against NC State next week. And the whole package, OD, special teams, offensive line play, there is nobody right now. And that may change. I mean, things change. You've got 4 or 5 weeks to go before this thing sorts it out. And that may change. But there is nobody even in the same stratosphere as Oklahoma. You mentioned my old team, the Arizona Cardinals. If I'm Bill Bidwell, the owner, I'd be calling Oklahoma and see if I couldn't trade for their squad. Even swap, maybe even throw some cash.
Well, I can tell you this. At least I believe it's the first time that A&M has ever allowed more than 60 points in a game. Terrence Thomas on the return gets back to the 16. They're just not calling off the dogs. And I don't mean that in a derogatory
they're not
way.
running it up. No way.
They're playing everybody on the bench.
Well,
they're just loaded.
And go to the flip side, Dennis Franchione, he does not expect the second and third stringers from Oklahoma not to play hard. It's not like they're running reverses and Thompson's back there throwing posts or anything like that. They're just running their offense and playing good defense.
All right, I was correct. The first time A&M has ever given up more than 60 points. A&M's worst loss was by 48 points to Texas way back in 1898.
You were just a junior at Maryland.
77-0. Now, we did have an afternoon like this. It wasn't this bad, but Penn State did this to us one afternoon when I was a sophomore.
University of Colorado, my sophomore year. Darian Hagan at quarterback, Eric Bieniemy at running back. They came up to our place, and I think the final, it was like 46-24, but it was more like 77-0.
I can't remember that score. I'm trying to think of that score against Penn State my sophomore year. It was like 57-23, but it felt like it was 77.
Yeah, no, you put it out of your memory banks as quickly as possible. And it's funny because Colorado went on to win the national championship the next year, tied it, shared it with Georgia Tech, and they were much better the year before. We actually went back to Colorado on the road and lost 20-16. Should have won that game, but that's the scary part. And I don't like to talk about juniors and sophomores going pro. If this team comes back, all the guys who are not graduating, it is going to be off the charts again in 04.
First down and 10 for A&M. Still looking for some success. McNeil. And every time he runs, he gets punished.
And every time he runs next year, it's going to be about the same thing. When I looked at this roster, and I saw junior, sophomore, freshman, junior, sophomore, I started counting who's coming back, and I saw both kickers, 10 guys on offense, 9 guys on defense. This is from today's starter because Ronaldo Works, who did not start, is a senior. And then you add in Lance Mitchell, who, you know, other than Teddy Lehman, might have been their best linebacker. He got hurt in the third game as a senior with a red shirt. He's had great surgery. He should be all healthy, and he'll be back next year as well.
They may have lost yardage there. Farmer loses yardage back by the line of scrimmage, maybe behind it. Aaron Allen got there. He's the junior linebacker from Orange, Texas.
And Allen doing a really nice job. Mike Stoops was talking about when they lost Lance Mitchell. Allen had to step up. Wayne Chambers, who is nursing a little bit of an ankle, didn't play against Oklahoma State. Both of those guys come into that key Mike linebacker, that middle linebacker spot. And even though you can't really replace a guy like Lance Mitchell, those guys have played really well.
Third down, and they need 9, almost 10. McNeil lets it fly and almost intercepted.
McNeil got hammered, and he is not getting up. Larry Burdine, a freshman defensive end, just unloaded on him.
Poteet almost had the interception as McNeil is up.
Look at the spin move by Burdine. Right up through the back. It's good to see Reggie up. But the athleticism, and these are not big guys, but they don't have to be because of their speed. Burdine only 254 pounds. Look at that athleticism.
For Jacob Young, the punter at Texas A&M, this will be his 11th punt of the afternoon. He's a junior walk-on, and right now, he's a tired junior. High punt again. It's a short punt. This one may be his shortest, but it gets a bounce that carries into Oklahoma territory into the 43. So a 39-yard punt and no return.
Hey, Antonio Perkins hasn't returned one for a touchdown. It's good news for A&M.
Almost did.
He's got 4 on the season, 3 of those against UCLA. I think Kevin Brandt was credited with missing about 4 tackles on one of those. Your son, wasn't he?
UCLA's defense did pretty well against Oklahoma. But, boy, they gave up a couple of interception return for touchdowns and 3 punt returns for touchdowns. And People forget UCLA led that 10-0 in the first quarter.
Look at the yards by quarter.
Straight ahead they go, and that should be the last play of the third period. So the end of the third period is at hand. We've got 15 minutes remaining in the ball game. 77-0 Sooners. ABC Sports presentation of college football return after this message and a word from our ABC stations where it's all Oklahoma. Look at this. And as lopsided as it is, 77-0 Oklahoma. The Sooners defense, I guarantee you, is more fired up than ever.
You think Mike Stoops is working that sideline?
Thinking we're going to maintain that goose egg and not give anything up. Keywan Jones picks up maybe a yard.
You know, we were talking about Josh Heupel earlier being a graduate assistant, and he, because Chuck Long is up here next to us, he is really the eyes and the ears down on the field. And really great story. Jason White said, when I was a freshman, I just jumped in this guy's back pocket to learn everything I could. Of course, that was the year that Josh led the Sooners to the national championship. But there are times, Chuck says, it's so easy to sit up here and see everything develop, and why didn't he go there? And Josh says, coach, he couldn't see it. There was a blitzing linebacker in his face, and he has been really, really instrumental in the great year that Jason White has put together.
Third down and 12 for the Sooners. They run the ball. Big hole. Jones, he's loose. He's got the first down and then some. Inside the 30, and there's a flag back at the 41-yard line. It seems like every time they need a big run, they get it. Let's see what the flag is. This was a run of 33 yards.
Offside, defense.
And it's against A&M.
First down.
And Dante Hickson now up to 136 yards on the afternoon. First time he's gone over 100 as a Sooner. Did it plenty of times at McKinney High School in McKinney, Texas.
And Jones with that big run puts a bunch on the board as well. Both those guys have done well.
Jones just at 100. That is also the first time for him as a Sooner to go over 100 yards.
Well, that 33-yarder right there helped him. Here he is again and loses yardage. A&M was all over that when Johnny Jolly made the tackle. And the sophomore from Houston, Texas will remember that for a while. He's still a little bit feisty. I like that.
And the worst part is now for Keywan Jones, now he doesn't have 100 yards for the first time in his Sooner career.
But he can always say he got it.
But he doesn't have it. It's only official when we see
not in the book
3 zeros at the end of this quarter.
Entirely new offensive line all the way across the front. Mesner's in there, the redshirt freshman. John Flynn is in there. Adam Millington is in there, the true freshman. Jones.
Yeah, he's got it back.
To the 25.
Just barely, right?
To the 25-yard line. He's got 101 now. Look at this. Oklahoma's most points, 82 points against Colorado in 1980.
Yeah, I think they might get it this afternoon with 12:34 left in the fourth. A pretty good shot. Well, you don't need to start getting. That's Ray Jones starting strong safety. And the way the players, the A&M players, were waving over. Took a while for. And Torbush, we were talking earlier, if you're an A&M fan, you're probably thinking, hey, start getting some of the backups in. But, you know, you're trying to build a program. You're new. You're in a new system. You've changed from a 3-4 to a 4-3 against the best team. You've got to leave these guys in and let them get experience.
They are enjoying it in Norman, Oklahoma, and this is why. Oklahoma 613 total yards to 53 for A&M.
And A&M, an offense that averaged over 400 yards a game coming in. Pretty amazing.
Jones spins and turns his way down to the 15-yard line, and that's a first down. So they're knocking at the door again. Let's go back. This thing may sort itself out yet.
And TCU might end up in a BCS ball.
Oh, stop it.
Hey, 2 losses above them. They continue to creep up.
I have nothing against TCU. I'm just saying the teams in front of them, and TCU with 4 straight wins, a touchdown or less over South Florida, UAB, Houston, and Louisville will hurt them. Here's Jones inside the 10 to the 6. But I agree. I mean, there's nothing in that right-hand ledger. There's still
you just have to look at the form.
Unbeaten.
I agree. I mean, they have not been spectacular in some of their wins against not great opponents, but they continue to win, and people above them continue to lose. 1 losses.
Stranger things have happened.
Oh, yes, they have.
And Congress, of course, continues to debate the College Bowl system. They review whether college football is BCS, which generates millions of dollars in revenue every year, whether it does exclude everybody else.
Well, they're going to get some wind in their sails of their argument as soon as the Big East gets settled down and they've lost Miami and Virginia Tech. Those lower tiered conferences are going to start having some arguments.
Here's Jones to the 5-yard line, close to another first down. He'll be just a little bit short. It'll bring up 3rd down in inches.
What's nice for these young players, you mentioned an entire new offensive line in there for Bob Stoops, and when you're building a program, and not saying this is a building program, I mean this program is there, but as you're building a program, if you can get those young guys, and that's why the offensive line that he has, boy, you don't want to see Kewan Jones. Yeah, with Ronaldo Works already out.
And there is no 3rd running back today. Because after Hickson,
they don't want room red shirts.
Exactly. After Hickson come 2 true freshmen, and they Tashard Choice and Courtney Tenial, they're trying to keep them redshirted.
No, at 77-0, there's no way you would burn a red shirt. We're after the 3rd game of the season, so no true freshman can get any snaps.
Oklahoma 9 for 10 on 3rd down conversions, and they need just inches here. Here's Hickson. He's got to get across the 5, and I don't think he got there. It'll bring up 4th down in inches. Melvin Bullitt made the tackle.
Number 18, Bullitt.
Now, do you go for it, or do you just take the field goal?
Nah, I think you go.
No mercy rule?
No, well, I just think that, well, you can look at it 2 ways. Take the points and go to 80, or run it on 4th down and just the clock continue. I mean, for A&M, I think it's you're going home with your tail between your legs either way.
And the crowd loves it.
Yeah, this is not a rub-in. I don't feel that. I just think that, you know, you're putting the 3 points on to go to 80. That might even be more of a rub-in than, you know what, we're just going to line up and run the ball here. It's going to be between the tackles, nothing fancy.
Crowd's on its feet, 4th down in inches. Thompson's got the first down inside the 5 to the 3.
Thompson on the keeper. Brought down by Ahel, number 19. Number 44, Thompson.
Coach Fran takes a good, hard look at that scoreboard.
Yes, Coach, it really does say 77-0.
First and goal.
Well, you had the feeling, and we were a little bit sarcastic when we said it, that in the first quarter you felt like they could hang 100 on them.
Oh, they could have. If
and they still may. Takes a knee here.
And I like this. Boy, this is a really classy move by Bob Stoops. His team is just far superior than the Aggies.
Now the crowd starts to boo.
Well,
he can't keep the fans happy.
No, you know, the state of Oklahoma is not very fond of the state of Texas, so any chance they get to put one on them. And Stoops, you know, 11-1 against top 10 teams. He's done very well against the state of Texas as well.
Using all the play clock. Taking their time. 2nd down and goal. Hickson. Well, I don't understand that. What was he took the knee on 1st down, and 2nd down they ran it straight ahead.
You know, I'm wondering if they're just thinking, let's just turn it over on downs. They still want. And the only loss last year.
This is what you were talking about.
The only loss last year was the huge upset down in College Station when Sooners rode in 8-0, #1 in the country.
R.C. Slocum's final win.
123 wins for R.C. Had a great career at A&M. And he's a special assistant to the president now.
Quality man.
Has his pride intact. Still does great work for the Aggies.
Hickson's your setback. 3rd down and goal. Hickson goes to the 5. Well, part of the problem here is if you don't run hard and you don't run with an intention to score, you are going to get hurt. And you can see that A&M is still fired up.
That's a good point.
So you have to make a decision. Do you just want to give it over to Texas A&M, or do you want to play hard?
Pound it ahead. No, you don't want to play soft, because Torbush and Francione they're lining up their guys.
And you see A&M still bouncing around, and they're still trying to make stops, so it'll be 4th down.
And you know what it's like, Tim. You know, some of their backups are in. When you're a young pup and you get a chance to go in, it doesn't matter what the score is. You're trying to put a show on for your coaches, and that's what's happening with the Aggies right now. These guys want to show their coaches they haven't given up and they belong on the field.
4th down and goal. Hickson doesn't make it. Boy, and they don't like the way Johnny Jolly made that tackle, but to me, he's still playing hard.
No, that was not dirty.
Nope.
A wrap up and a tackle. He was not trying to hurt Hickson as he spun him around.
This defense, though, for Oklahoma won't give up much. They'll continue to play. They want the goose egg.
Shut out all the way.
77-0 with 5:51 left to play. Been overcast, been in the 40s all day. Had a great flyover when the game began. F-16.
We heard it. Didn't quite see it, but they rumbled the whole building.
Dustin Long now in at quarterback. First time we've seen him today as Farmer goes around the left side and gets out to the 13-yard line. I want to certainly thank everybody on the crew today. Executive producer of ABC Sports, Mike Pearl. Bob Tom, senior producer. Coordinating producer of ABC's College Football, Bob Goodrich. But here in Norman, it's Chris Pfeiffer. And Fife, great job today. David Kiviat giving you all the pictures. Beth Tura down there doing what she does best, keeping the guys straight. The technical director. Associate producer, Chris Damiani. Associate director, Chris Watt. Watto and Doms did that tease for you. Technical director, Jim Viola. Production manager, Kevin Wendling, rather. Our studio show was produced by Tim Weinkauf. Calvin Hayward directed. TD, Kevin Bierman. Mark Loomis, director of production. Chiron operator, Lily Best. We're thinking about her today. And up here in the booth, Michael Webster, Mark Williams, John Madrid, doing what they do so well. Good. Let's go downstairs to Sam.
Well, Timmy, we've been talking about the Heisman all day today. We take a look at what is here today. This is the Rotary Lombardi Award, which goes out to college football's top linemen. Now, what makes it interesting, Tommy Harris and Teddy Lehman of OU are both semifinalists for this. And Tommy, believe it or not, has a vote this year. This year, the committee decided to let former finalists have a vote. Now, the voting expires Monday at noon. The 4 finalists will be announced on Tuesday. The award will be handed out December 10th. I don't think Tommy voted for Kellen Winslow. What do you guys think?
I agree. As Oklahoma's defense continues to swarm, I'm not sure you should have a vote.
Yeah, active player gets the vote. Come on. Let's be real.
It's like Ed Cunningham, sportscaster of the year.
Voted on by.
He voted on himself.
Yeah, that's a bit much to let active players. I mean, maybe former finalists, guys who were finalists, but Tommy was just a little pup, a true freshman when he was a finalist 2 years ago. But
I think the MVP at today's ballgame, most valuable player, is John Madry, keeping the numbers, and there have been unbelievable amounts of numbers.
Extraordinaire. I think his punt average is off by 0.1. I did the math at halftime.
And again, no return. They'll let it hit, and it gets a Oklahoma bounce back inside the 40 to the 39-yard line. So a 27-yard punt by Jacob Young. All-American Cody Skates, only 12 punts, had surgery for that hernia. And so Jacob Young, the junior walk-on, has stepped in and done a very nice job this year.
Take a look at the Pacific Life game summary. It's going to take a little while. 77-0 is our score. Clayton Jones, who went off with an injury, and tells Sam Ryan he's okay. Clayton, again, who's been spectacular. But really, it was just a great display of accuracy and arm strength by Jason White early in the game. Found receivers long, short, had all day to throw because of the great offensive line play. And then the backups start getting into the action. Paul Thompson comes in. And Hickson, Dante Hickson going in there. And then the defense, you know, they didn't want to be left out of this mix. So Derek Strait picks up a fumble and goes in for 6.
So a big day for Jason White. Thompson 2 for 3, 34 yards. And he had a nice day. A couple of touchdowns running. And now we get our first look at Noah Allen, who is a freshman from Pearland, Texas, who will take over at quarterback. Number 16, he's 6'3", 219 pounds, from Pearland High School. And as the clock continues to move, Dan Townsend very much in the hunt. He's only played in 17 tournaments this year.
And then bum knee.
Yeah, and he won 5 of them.
Yeah, his slugging percentage was okay, wasn't it?
People say he's in a slump. I say, well, come on. Of course, they're just looking at the majors, and the majors do count big. Allen again, hands it off, straight ahead they go.
Easy up.
Townsend again. 150 to play in the game. Let's go back to New York. Here's John Saunders. John, what about that Miami? Oh, my. So there you go.
All of the rumors about Philip Fulmer.
Singular poll question: who is the college coach of the year? Bob Stoops, Pete Carroll, John Smith, Gary Patterson, or Ron Zook?
Oh, it's hard to argue. I mean, he's clearly got the best team in the country. But I always think the coach of the year should go to the guy who has a bunch of challenges to overcome. Not that Bob has not had a few to overcome, but for me, John L. Smith, first year on the job, a quarterback who didn't get reinstated fully to the team, and Jeff Smoker.
See, what I said at the beginning of the game when we posed the question, with the 25-85 rule, there's such parity now in college football.
This is unbelievable.
So many teams are so close that I think Bob Stoops by far should have the coach of the year honors with this football team that he has put together.
Well, it's not done yet. They've got Baylor and then Texas Tech and then the Big 12 championship game against Missouri, Kansas State, or Nebraska. I'd like to see my guy Gary Pinkel in that Big 12 championship.
Let's go downstairs to Sam.
All right, guys, Timmy Kewan Jones on the bench right now.
Hey, Mom,
he has
fine.
There's the update right there.
Yeah,
he says he's fine. They have ice on his left ankle, and he's just ear-to-ear grin. 77-0.
Those moms, they sit at home if they can't come to the game, and they're glued till the very end of this game.
And with mercy, we come to the final 10 seconds of the game. Tonight's players of the game, Jason Appel and Jason White. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. White, 16 of 18, 263 yards, 5 touchdowns. Appel with 8 tackles. And there it is, the end of the game in Norman, Oklahoma. Once again, the final score, Oklahoma 77, Texas A&M nothing. We'll be back with some final comments right after these messages. Norman, Oklahoma, where the Sooners came out with a vengeance today. Texas A&M upset #1 Oklahoma a year ago. The Sooners never forgot it and came out, scored early and often. They won the toss and elected to put 77 on the board today against A&M.
And it was all about Jason White. 16 for 18, 263 yards, 5 touchdowns, making a Heisman statement.
Let's go down to Sam. Sam?
Guys, he certainly did make a Heisman statement today. Jason White, 77-0. How do you describe this one?
It was just, good focus throughout the whole team, the offense and defense. All week we focused on, just coming out and playing our game and playing the best of our ability. And we did that tonight and, came out with a win.
Now, we sat down with you guys on Thursday, and nobody wanted to use the R word, the revenge word. This is a team that beat you guys, that stunned you guys last year. What were you really thinking?
Oh, we know we can't come back and just try to win, thinking we're going to win because we're mad at somebody or we want revenge. We knew we had to come out and play our game. And, Coach Stoops got us ready to play all week, and we did it.
We've been mentioning the Heisman all day today. Where do you think you sit in this now?
All I know is we're still the #1 team in the country, and I'm happy with that.
#1 and undefeated. Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you.
Tim?
All right, Sam, next up for the Sooners is Baylor. Then they travel to Texas Tech. They are 10-0 right now, 6-0 in the conference, and right now, unquestionably, the most dominant team in the nation. For Ed Cunningham and Samantha Ryan, I'm Tim Brandt. So long from Norman. Let's take you back now to Times Square Studio and John Saunders. John?
Tim, thanks a lot. 77-0. It almost reads like it's some sort of a misprint, guys. When you look at this game, pure domination on both ends of the field. This is clearly a better team than the one that won the national championship.
Well, you're right. Every phase of the football game, it's not just a good offense or a great defense kicking it. It's every phase. They do everything in a dominant fashion. It's going to take a miracle or just a total letdown.
You were messing with me earlier at halftime about them being one of the best teams of all time. You still want to reconsider that little messing around?
I don't know about that.
They're pretty darn good, aren't they? I mean, Oklahoma, complete domination. And Texas A&M, hey, don't feel so bad about yourself. Everybody else getting whipped by them, too.
I was going to say, if they get through, all the way through and win the national championship, I'm with you on that. I'm being one of the best teams of all time on both sides of the football. It's not a misprint, folks. 77-0.
Aye, that's all you can say. That's ugly.
There's nothing else. They are good.
Wow. Oklahoma, indisputably #1.
Conduct issue came up in Norman as well. In contrast to Winslow's "I'm out there to kill them" rant, Bob Stoops said Saturday, "I believe in being decent to people," but this was after handing Texas A&M the worst loss in its 108-year football history. The Sooners and Aggies in Norman. Is this piling on, or is Oklahoma just this good? Second quarter, Jason White, Mark Clayton, 21-0. White threw only 2 incompletions all day. He was 16 of 18 with 5 touchdowns, 3 of them to Mark Clayton. Still in a second, Kewan Jones. He ran for $120. Sooners outrushed A&M 342 yards to 22 yards. That's a substantial difference. Later in the second quarter, it's 35-0, and we're going upstairs again. White, Clayton. Oklahoma scored touchdowns on 10 of its first 11 possessions of this football game. They outpassed the Aggies 297 yards to 32 yards. Again, a substantial difference. Third quarter, there were turnovers as well. Courtney Lewis will fumble, Derek Strait will recover, and Oklahoma will win 77-0. Bob Stoops said, "We're not here thumping our chests at all. That's not our style." Here's Reese Davis.
For a school record 6th time this season, Oklahoma hung half 100 on somebody. Almost hung a full 100 on Texas A&M, and in fact could have if they wanted to. They backed off the scoring at the end. But the last touchdown, 77 points made that touchdown, scored by a Thorpe Award semifinalist, Derek Strait. Starters still in the game, defense still in the game that way. You have a problem with playing your starters when it's 70-0.
No, I don't have a problem, do you?
Yes, actually I do. I think you left them in too long.
No, Reese, he didn't leave them in too long, and here's the reason why. Because, you know, in a typical game, a defensive player will probably play 70 plays in the game. At the end of the third quarter, against a hapless team, the Texas A&M Aggies, they had played 34 plays. It's not Oklahoma's fault that they were playing a high school team. You have to remain continuity with your football team. They play Baylor next week. You got to get the starters time, Mark. They have to play.
What time do they get? Is it quality time, or is it just practice time? They could probably get better time on the practice field than going out there against Texas A&M. Get the second, third, and fourth team in there. Get them some experience.
I just disagree, guys. I think this team made a statement.
You're a pad-your-stat guy.
Oklahoma. I know that Oklahoma rotates a lot of guys in, but I think there comes a point. If it's 70-0, you got to get the first team guys out of there and let them have a seat.
It's the reason why they're #1.
Reasonable minds can differ.
Oklahoma's 77 points tied the most by any team in the nation this season, and were the most since West Virginia hung 80 on Rutgers in 2001. A&M's 54 total yards, the fewest by any team since Kansas State held Ball State to 51 total yards 3 years ago. Those cluck hits.
This is College Game Day Final.
Hi, everybody. Glad to have you with us on College Game Day Final. Alongside my partners, Trev Alberts and Mark May, I'm Reese Davis. Second Saturday in November, I've got the entire season figured out, guys.
You do? What is it?
If you don't live in Norman, Oklahoma, and play for that team, you're not safe. Don't care who you are. You can be ranked. You can be unranked. You are in dire. Last year, Texas A&M beat Oklahoma. Reggie McNeil with a fabulous performance. But the Aggies going into Norman, where the Sooners said they weren't totally bent on revenge. And it turns out that the A and the M in Texas A&M stands for annihilated and manhandled. Because that's exactly what happened to them. We're going to run through some stats for you. Jason White, he only threw 2 incomplete passes all day. 5 touchdown passes, 2 incomplete passes. Here one to Mark Clayton. I mean, the Sooners put up such a big number on the scoreboard. If they put it on their speedometer, they get a $200 speeding ticket. 77 points they put up. Clayton has now a touchdown catch in 6 straight games. I mean, it was embarrassing. A&M didn't even show up.
Guys, we've talked about being technically sound.
Yeah.
Some football players not technically sound. Let me show you Melvin Bullitt, a freshman here. It's 3rd and goal. There's Melvin over there. He's a freshman defensive back. Comes in, makes a nice play. Melvin. Yo. Melvin. It's 77-0, man. What are you doing, son?
Well, Franchione probably wishing you were back at Alabama or TCU or Pittsburgh State or anywhere but Norman on this day. It was an abysmal effort by Texas A&M. And Oklahoma, though, Derek Strait scored the last touchdown on a pick 6. Do you have bad feelings about the starters being in there when it's 70-0? Well,
not a bad feeling. It's a pad your stat type of game anyway. And I'd rather see those guys on the sidelines. The reason being those guys could get injured, those players that are starters that are out there late in the game where the game is meaningless at that point because there's no way that Oklahoma's going to lose that game. But if you look at Oklahoma and break this team down, this is a team when they make mistakes, they correct mistakes on the field. They had 4 touchdowns called back. They did score after that, but still, Bob Stoops was upset at the mistakes they made in that football game, but they corrected those mistakes and scored. The way that they're hitting on all cylinders right now, I think Oklahoma might be able to be defeated by maybe 4 teams. The Carolina Panthers, New England Patriots, Kansas City Chiefs, and maybe the Indianapolis Colts. That's about it. They're that good.
You know, Mark and Reese, I think we can argue all day about whether the starters should have been in there or not in the 3rd and 4th quarter. But I think the point is when you look at this team, they played the same way those starters did from the first play in the 1st quarter and when it was 77-0 in the 3rd quarter. That's why they're ranked #1. It's Bob Stoops having his team ready to play. We talk about Oklahoma, and so many times we say, well, they just have better athletes. Yes, Oklahoma has better athletes, but you know what, gentlemen? They also win for a reason. J.D. Runnels running across here right there in the formation. Jason White's going to play fake it to Kewan Jones, gets a favorable matchup with a linebacker, 9-yard gain, technically sound. Now Texas A&M, they're going to show 7 guys up front. They're going to bring a blitz on Jason White. Is the offensive line going to break down Mark May? No way. They pick it up, and what do? Give him a great lane to throw the football. And Mark Clayton's over here. He holds the safety. Beautiful pass, easy catch. You always say, well, is Jason White really good? Of course he is. Look at that. Now look here. Wes Sims is your left tackle. He's going to block, and he's going to say, oh, I got a corner blitz. I'm smart enough to slide out, pick up the blitz. Jason White then, what does he do? Finds Jawan Rankins, easy catch, easy throw. Jawan Rankins, does he just run around? No, he waits till he turns the DB around. Great route, catches the ball. You know, guys, we talk about Oklahoma. We talk about their ability. Yes, they have great players. They're all Americans. But the bottom line is this. They have great technique. They win for a reason. They're technically sound, and they're great athletes.
There's no question about that. And they do play for championships there. They put 77 on A&M. A&M put 73 on Baylor. Oklahoma's got Baylor next. 147-0. No, not quite that bad. You know, some one-sided series in college
Reese,
football.
Your math is...
77 is 150.
Okay.
Well, let's not do the math. We can do the math then we talk about Nebraska and Kansas 35 straight times. The Huskers, and you're good in math. Wendy's Heisman update, the season statistics. Jason White had a terrific day on Saturday. 32 touchdowns and only 6 picks. That's sick, as the kids like to say. Fitzgerald over 100 yards again. Eli Manning has moved into contention for the Heisman Trophy. 23 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. Chris Perry, who had the day off on Saturday. Michigan will return to action next week against Northwestern, over 131 yards per game. Matt Leinart also sitting the day out. Leinart's put up huge numbers in Norm Chow's offense at Southern California. And despite the loss for Virginia Tech, Kevin Jones, 241 yards rushing. That's a school record. 4 touchdowns. It's over 122 yards per game on the season. All right, it gets a little tougher this time of year because not only are guys who've been in the race making statements, other guys are kind of coming from back in the pack to expand the race. How do you see it right now, Mark?
Well, I think Kevin Jones had a huge day today. I think he really put an imprint on what the Heisman's all about, that you play your best during the season, but you also play your best in big games and in November. But the key is Larry Fitzgerald had a great game again. When they threw him the football, he caught the football. And the other key is Jason White. What can you say about a guy that only plays a half, 5 touchdown passes? I think the 2 top guys, Jason White, Larry Fitzgerald, but the other guys in the pack are starting to nip at their heels a little bit.
And, you know, Larry Fitzgerald, I think he's going to get votes just because of the way he conducts himself on the football field. I think it's tremendous. He breaks records. He just hands the football to the official. I think the other thing is this, Jason White. It's so easy to just sit back there as an uninformed voter and say to yourself, well, he just threw a 7-yard in route, and then Mark Clayton took it to the house. As I tried to show, maybe not very good, Jason White had to look off the safety, had to pick up protection. There's so much more involved than just throwing a 7-yard pass to Mark Clayton. So those are my 2 guys at the top. But clearly, I think Kevin Jones, like Mark said, jumped back onto that top page.
Now, if you had a vote right now, would it weigh more heavily in your mind, say a Fitzgerald who controls the game by taking the attention of the defense, or does it weigh more heavily to you that Jason White has to make the right decisions every play?
Well, I think Larry Fitzgerald, for the standing reason that he's the most outstanding player in college football, and I think he's easiest to defend. I mean, you just put 2 or 3 guys on him, you try to take him away. I mean, you saw at the end of the game there, when they had to make a play, they went to Larry Fitzgerald. He didn't drop the ball. He went down and caught the ball. He made plays when he had to make plays. I think Larry Fitzgerald is the most outstanding player in college football.
I totally agree with you. Larry Fitzgerald is the best player in the country, but here's the other key. He's very unselfish. He'll go down and he'll make blocks for his other wide receivers. If another player on his team catches a football, he's the first one to run over there and congratulate that player. He's a total team player. And if he has to have 2 or 3 defenders on him, you can still throw him the football and he'll catch it. That's what's key to me. Jason White does a great job in their system. They protect him like a newborn baby. But Larry Fitzgerald, if you have to get the job done, throw him the football, touchdown.
How many times they used him as a decoy tonight? They ran him out here,
pretty
tied
much the
in.
entire second half until the end of the game when he had to catch passes on that last
Average
drive.
voter won't get it, though.
Well, not the average voter necessarily.